Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jessie from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I am joined as ever by the man who walked, the man who journeyed through that forbidden door on Sunday. It's your uncle, MT Matt Turner. Matt Turner, how the devil are you, sir?
Rob Goodwin, folks at the Stardom Cast universe. I am absolutely fantastic, as here in the States, we are upon 4th of July weekend, so I get a little extra time off work, a little extra R and R, and which should be fun, a couple cookouts. But yes, it is the day that we here in America get to celebrate our Independence Day, and I can't think of a better way to start off my 4th of July weekend, Mr. Rob Goodwin, than talking to you about some Stardom wrestling. And on actual 4th of July, I'll be getting up about 5:30 to watch that packed Korakuen Hall show, which will be live on Stardom World, which I'm sure we will preview, my brother. But no, I'm doing great. I'm always doing great. I'm a lucky, blessed individual. How's things over in your neck of the woods?
I am under a weighted blanket. It is a chilly day here in England, but do you know what? There's that much wrestling, that much news, and that much content to talk about that. Do you know what? I just don't feel like I feel the cold anymore. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. Some really good things and some really exciting things coming out of Stardom and the wider wrestling universe, including Stardom wrestlers as well. I mean, you mentioned that Korakuen Hall show tomorrow, which will be live on Stardom World. They then run Korakuen again on the 7th of July. That's also live. And then they run Korakuen again on the 23rd of July, and that is also live. So Stardom taking up residency at Korakuen Hall, it seems, Matt.
Yeah, we have a show from Korakuen Hall to cover later on in this episode. So yeah, it is Stardom, exactly. I think they're just taking up residency over in Korakuen Hall. It looks like that they're really adding some fantastic stuff to these Korakuen Hall shows. And we've been saying for, the better part of 6 or 7 months, they really need to start putting some more important stuff, some more fun stuff, some more special stuff on the Korakuen Hall shows. And by the show we're going to review here just in a moment, what we got coming up over the next Korakuen Hall shows, they are certainly doing that. So I'm definitely excited, and I know you're excited. I hope everybody listening at home, I hope you're excited as well.
Now, I know that obviously you have a special podcast coming out alongside Editor-in-Chief Sean and Andy Hedder in regard to your excitement and your experience at the Forbidden Door show in Long Island. But to give the people at home just a little taste, what was it like? Did you have a good time? I know that you were talking on the Patreon yesterday about the traffic and how that caused you to have a little bit of a Matt Turner meltdown, which does not happen very often at all. But other than that, what was it like?
No, it was really, really good. We had a really good time, myself, Andy Hedder, and Editor-in-Chief Sean Montrose. Basically, 2 other members of the Stardom Cast universe, as obviously Sean does a lot of the editing for our Patreon episodes, and Andy Hedder has been on quite a bit over these last few months. So, we journeyed there to the Forbidden Door. We got there just in time for 0 hour, and all the matches were really good. One of the main matches I wanted to see was Tam Nakano teaming with Willow Nightingale to take on the team of Momo Watanabe and one Chris Statlander. And by that time, because I think it was only the 2nd or 3rd match, and it was on the technical pre-show, so I want to say the building was about half full, maybe about 4,500 to 5,000 people, which still is a good house, especially Tam and Momo Watanabe that would be one of the biggest houses they've ever really wrestled in front of. And when Momo came out, because she came out with Chris Statlander, who's the heel, they booed Statlander, but they cheered Momo Watanabe. Very much similar to what happened. We're at the ECW arena. So Momo Watanabe, definitely somebody who is loved by the American audience. So hopefully it's somebody that they bring over to AEW from time to time, because we do know Tony Khan did make mention quite a few times that there is going to be a working relationship after the Forbidden Door with AEW and Stardom wrestlers. Obviously, me and you were texting back and forth saying that might be a reason why some of these wrestlers are not announced yet for the 5-star Grand Prix. We don't have the full lineups announced just yet. I would be shocked if 1 or 2 wrestlers from Stardom do not come over to do that 3-week tour for the 5-star Grand Prix, because maybe that's one of the reasons, Rob, why they shortened the 5-star Grand Prix, because they knew they were getting some wrestlers from AEW. We might be getting Mike Iwata in the 5-star Grand Prix as well. That's something that we'll talk about. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they condensed the 5-star Grand Prix, is because they're going to be having some wrestlers from different promotions come over to compete in the best tournament in all of wrestling this summer, and they didn't want to hold them up from other promotions. So that was really good. Tam got a big pop when she was able to defeat Momo Watanabe with the Twilight Dream. And then it was really nice. We did get some backstage promos where Momo Watanabe basically just said, "Hey Tam, like, I'll see you in the 5-star Grand Prix," which is great, because they haven't had a one-on-one singles match in quite some time. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years since Momo Watanabe's red belt run. So really, really exciting stuff there. But the whole show was really good. It was super, super long. So we got there probably a little bit after 6, and we left right around midnight. But every match was really, really good, and the main event was just absolute killer, considering the fact that about 10,000 people there in Long Island, New York, had to sat through, and I don't mean that in a bad way, basically sat through 5.5 hours of wrestling, give or take, to get to that main event. And from the moment that Will Ospreay came out as Hayabusa up into the final bell, they were into everything that him and Swerve Strickland did. So all in all, it was an excellent show. Nobody in America, in my opinion, does wrestling, in-ring wrestling, for what I like, bell to bell, better than AEW, and they put on a great product, and I'm really glad that we are going to see more of the Stardom wrestlers on AEW. As far as somebody's stock going up, Mr. Rob Goodwin, nobody's stock went up, in my opinion, more than one Stephanie Vacker. I mean, Mercedes Moné went out of her way to make sure Steph looked better than she would have already, because we know she's a fantastic worker. But since Mercedes Moné is this talent that, everybody has eyes on. She wrestled for the WWE, the biggest wrestling company, for years and years and years, main evented at WrestleMania, was in The Mandalorian, so she's a worldwide star. And the fact that she gave Steph Vacker as much as the match she did, maybe 65% of the match, I thought that was great. And Toni Storm did the same thing for Mina. Obviously, Toni did get the win and retain her championship against Mina. But if you go and watch that match, Mina controls 65% of it. So it's really nice that those women were able to take basically wrestlers that aren't contracted to AEW and give them a good majority of the match in front of a packed house in New York City, or Long Island. So yes, all in all, a great, great time. I will definitely go to another show for AEW in New York City, but I might just have to leave a day early, because yes, that traffic really, really threw me off. But no, all in all, it was a fun time, and thanks for everybody that came up to me and said hello and said nice words about the podcast. And then we had some I did have a handful of people that came up that never heard the podcast before, that were asking me certain questions about AEW and WWE and Stardom, and as well as Marigold, because I was wearing my Stardom Cast bright purple Tam Nakano shirt and my Queen's Quest jersey. Keeping it alive, Mr. Goodwin. Keeping it alive. So I did have a lot of people come up to me that didn't know, what the Stardom Cast was. That just got into Stardom, just got into Marigold, and asked me certain questions about what I like to watch and if I have a certain favorite. And of course, Rob, I love all sorts of wrestling. I'm not one of these wrestling fans that's like, well, if I watch WWE, I can't watch AEW. Or if I watch Stardom, I can't watch Marigold. And I probably told about 5 or 6 people, I'm like, no, you can watch it all. Like, tribalism in wrestling is so dumb. Like, if there's something that you don't like, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to bash it, but I did have a lot of people coming up to me asking me about that, and I was glad that a lot of the wrestling fans are on the same page. The AEW fans watch WWE, the Stardom fans watch Marigold, and vice versa, which is really, really nice to see, because if it's something that you like and all the wrestling's great, you don't have to choose. The biggest problem we have as wrestling fans is there's only 24 hours in a day. But all in all, my man, great show, great time, and the main thing is we got there safe and we got home safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to hear your episode as soon as Sean gets back from his trip for his anniversary and hopefully isn't hindered too much by those enormous guns that he was displaying in those photos. I mean, goodness gracious me. I had to fan myself just to cool myself down.
That episode should be up this weekend, guys. My guess is going to be Saturday or Sunday, so just bear with me. As literally, and I mentioned this on the Patreon episode, which isn't going to come out until next week, but literally after I dropped Sean off at his house, about an hour later, he left to drive to Philadelphia to take a flight to North Carolina. So he did not have time to edit the podcast. He'll be home, I think, on Friday, so maybe Saturday or Sunday, our review. And that's going to be free for everybody. That's going to be on the free feed. But myself, Sean, and Andy, we decided that it was Andy's idea, genius idea. I said, well, we're going to be talking about the show on our way home. Why not record it and make it a podcast? I'm like, yeah, it's going to be fresh in our mind. So that's what we did on our drive home from New York back to Pennsylvania, that we did record about an hour and 20 minutes, give or take, our quick review of Forbidden Door. So that'll be up on everybody's feed if you choose to listen, probably Saturday or Sunday.
Right, well, since you've already mentioned the Patreon, Matt, I feel like we should probably start there. Matt Turner, what is coming up on our Patreon this week?
On our Patreon, our alternate commentary that we released earlier this week was our theme for alternate commentary is the 5-star Grand Prix. And our alternate commentary, we go back to just a year ago, night one, as Julia takes on Saori Anou from the 5-star Grand Prix back in 2023. And then next week, our alternate commentary will be Micah taking on Risa Sera from the 5-star Grand Prix in 2022. Also this weekend, we will be dropping our tag team breakdown. Myself and Andy Header, we go back and watch the greatest Stardom tag match of all time, in my opinion, as the team of Thunder Rock of Io Shirai and Mayu Iwatani take on the makeshift team of Kairi Hojo, now known as Kairi Sane, and Mako Satomura. We just recorded that just yesterday, I believe on Tuesday, and that should be up on your Patreon feed sometime this weekend. So yeah, we have a lot of really cool stuff coming up. Also later in the month, our roundtable discussion will be me and Scotty Wrestling. We will be doing our top 5 favorite championship runs in the history of Stardom, and then the return of the one and only Allison Danger should be coming on for What If me and her booked Forbidden Door, and it's open to every single wrestling promotion in the world. So those will be your roundtable discussion and your What If. That'll be up by the end of the month. And then I believe our roundtable discussion with Karen Peterson, the Utami Hayashishita career retrospective, that'll drop this weekend as well, right, Rob?
Yeah, this weekend we have got 2 things dropping. So Saturday we are going to have, as Matt mentioned, our roundtable discussion with Karen Peterson. A week removed, or it's not removed, as me and Matt discussed, because I got that wrong. So a week away, should I say, from Utami's first time ever match against Io Sky at Summer Destiny. We're going to be doing a retrospective of her Stardom career. That's going to drop on our Patreon for red tier members and above, and then for white tier members and above will be our watch along 1980s All Japan. We go all the way back to 1989 Budokan Hall to watch Tenryu versus Jumbo Tsuruta for the Triple Crown Championship. It's going to be a busy one, guys, and just while we're on the subject of programming, I know that some of you have asked where the Marigold Standard is this week. Marigold has just today dropped a show, I believe, from the 29th of June. That's up on Wrestle Universe now. So once we've got everything watched, we will get an episode out. Obviously, there was no point in recording an episode with no shows to watch. So as we march on towards Summer Destiny, we will get a show out to you. But just a reminder that on the 13th of July, a week on Saturday, myself and Matt will be live on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, reviewing Summer Destiny 2024, Marigold's first venture into Ryogoku. Come and join us live. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to converse with you. So if you're available, would love to hear from you then. Matt, let's talk about some news. And as always, it seems that a lot of stuff has dropped. We were talking about the Forbidden Door. Well, it turns out that the Forbidden Door hasn't just been opened, it has been smashed down. And it's great news for Stardom because Wrestle Dynasty has been announced the 5th of January 2025 inside the Tokyo Dome, the night after Wrestle Kingdom. We'll see a huge super show. CMLL, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, and Stardom will be taking part in this huge event. Matt, Stardom said they wanted to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, or they wanted to run a show in the Tokyo Dome in 2025. It might not be an independently promoted show, but it does look like we're going to get more than one token match, which is, it's huge, isn't it, for the Stardom wrestlers? And I think we are at least going to see a high-profile IWGP Women's Championship defense, at the very least.
Yeah, again, I mean, Chris, for anybody that's listened to this podcast for more than a year, Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I'm a big fan of the holidays. Then you fast forward 4 days after Santa comes down the chimney, and we are loaded with shows in Japan because we have Dream Kingdom on the 29th, and then Stardom has a show on the 3rd of January, and then we have Wrestle Kingdom on the... And then we have this Wrestle Dynasty that's featuring, again, CMLL, Stardom, AEW, Ring of Honor, and, of course, New Japan. So us wrestling fans, we get a Christmas present just a few days late, as it is absolutely loaded. And I'm wondering, now that New Japan and Stardom are kind of under the same banner, if this is going to be a yearly thing that they're going to do with, starting on the 29th and going to the 5th with all these shows, because that would really make it a destination place for wrestling fans. And maybe something, Rob Goodwin, in a year or two that we might have to think about taking the trip out to Japan for, because that seems like it's literally like their WrestleMania. I mean, really would be their WrestleMania if this is something that they're going to do. Maybe we might have to reach out to our friends over at Stardom to see if this is going to be a yearly thing. It might be this first year might be just a little tryout just to see how it goes, and then if it goes well, which I think it's going to, that maybe this will be a yearly thing, which I really hope it does. But yeah, really interesting thing. Really, I mean, this is great for all the wrestling companies, especially those wrestling companies that are competing in the world famous Tokyo Dome. And finally, Stardom will get a proper match inside the Tokyo Dome, other than the Tam and Saya versus the MK Sisters from a few years ago. Obviously, there was a tag match that didn't air on that happened in Wrestle Kingdom, didn't air, and then obviously Kairi and Tam Nakano. The less said about it, the better, and that has nothing to do with the competitors in the match. But it's another story for another day, because we are a positive podcast. But you know what I mean, my friend. Yes, my guess is they're going to have probably maybe 2 or 3 matches on that show, and with CMLL being on that show, fingers crossed we get another Steph Vacker match, because she is really the talk of the town when it comes to wrestling over here in North America over this past weekend. So we may get Billy Starks, because we have Ring of Honor, Mark Briscoe. There's a lot of really cool possibilities. So yeah, that's awesome. It really is, and I'm really looking forward to all those shows that week.
Yeah, and of course, if you are familiar with the name Wrestle Dynasty, it was back in 2020, August 2020, when New Japan planned to hold an event under the name Wrestle Dynasty, and it was initially, if you remember, Matt, supposed to take place at Madison Square Garden in New York, but unfortunately this was cancelled, obviously, due to the COVID pandemic, but we have got it now inside the Tokyo Dome. It's going to be very, very exciting, and Matt, just something you touched on there, my friend. I'd be very surprised if this is not made an annual thing, and I'll sort of go into that a little bit now. As you already alluded to, World Wonder Ring Stardom has now officially become a subsidiary of New Japan Pro Wrestling. That was as of the 30th of June. They're now called Stardom Inc., or the company is called Stardom Inc. Whether you will see any changes in regard to the website or the logo or anything like that is yet to be determined. So far, they are still known as World Wonder Ring Stardom, but that's just a little bit of a programming note. However, due to this merger, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, was seen at the Korakuen Hall show that we're going to be talking about today, made an address to the Stardom fans, as well as Mr. Taro Okada, president of Bushiroad Fight and Stardom. They then did a press conference on Tuesday, the 2nd of July, where they announced what is being touted as Wrestle Kingdom Week. beginning on December 29th. And it seems, Matt, from the press release and from the interview and the press conference, that they are very, very keen to make this a destination place for that week. So, as Matt mentioned, December 29th, Stardom Dream Queendom 2024 at Ryogoku Sumo Hall. It is key just to mention that currently Dream Queendom is not the official name for this show. It is listed just as Stardom in Sumo Hall. However, obviously, this will be the fourth in the Stardom Dream Queendom chronology. I'd be surprised if they change that name. January 2nd, there will be Pro Wrestling Matsuri, a joint event with New Japan and Stardom. Stardom will then run its own event on January 3rd, as they did this year at New Year Dream 2025. That will be hosted at Tokyo, and I've deleted the actual venue, but I'll find that for you whilst when I throw to Matt. But that will be the first time a wrestling promotion has run that specific venue, so just something to keep an eye on. January 4th, of course, will be Wrestle Kingdom 19, and then January 5th, Wrestle Dynasty, New Japan, Stardom, AEW, CMLL, and Ring of Honor, and then January 6th will be New Japan's New Year Dash. So a crazy busy week, Matt Turner. This January 2nd show, not a lot's known about it. From what I can glean from the English translation of the press conference, it's sort of an event that's going to be happening adjacent to the airport. Now, I believe that they want to try and catch people as they are coming in to watch these January shows. And it's, for me at least, it's the only even remotely negative thing about this announcement. Because this announcement, if they can get this, with it being, we've talked a lot. Obviously, we were at WrestleMania week last year. We are, it's 90% certain that we're going to be there next year. WrestleMania week is almost as big as WrestleMania itself. And obviously, New Japan are trying to capitalize on that. Okay, we know that Wrestle Kingdom is the destination show in Japan in terms of wrestling, in terms of the calendar. Let's build a week around it. And there's always been an unofficial week around it where sort of, wrestling companies have set up shows. However, we've acquired Stardom. We've got this new relationship. We've got this relationship with AEW and, through them, CMLL and people like that. Why not create our own thing? And I say through AEW. Of course, New Japan and CMLL have been running the Fantastic Mania tour for years, but that's by the by. The only thing that I can think is it's very strange that they would run the January 2nd sort of airport event after Dream Queendom. It doesn't really seem like, surely you'd want people coming in earlier than Dream Queendom so they can take in Dream Queendom as well. It does sort of seem like it cuts off that show from the schedule, Matt.
Yeah, true, but at the same time, again, let's just say, hey, we're going to plan on, me and you, we're going to plan on going to these shows. We're obviously, say next year or whatever. We're obviously going to, I understand that airport show, but at the same time, we know we're going to go to the Stardom show. So I get your point there, but at the same time, the people that are going to go there to see both Stardom and New Japan are going to probably be packing their bags the day after Christmas to fly over to Japan, or if they live in Japan to go to that area. So yeah, I see your point there, putting it at the airport, just in case if somebody is, it's an easier place to find because the airport's the airport. Maybe that's the reason why they're doing it. But at the same time, the Stardom fans and the wrestling fans and the Japanese wrestling fans that are going there for the whole thing, they're going to go there to see Stardom. It doesn't matter where that location is. And it's in Sumo Hall. It's not like it's in some dungeon somewhere. It's a very well-known building. So, yeah, I see your point there, but I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. I think you're going to see Stardom, considering the fact that they're really starting to get hot now. I mean, we've seen these shows are really, really packed. It looks like a lot of these other shows, their pre-sale tickets are doing really well. They're really starting to get some momentum. So, we can keep this company hot with some hot angles, with bringing in some outside talent that people really want to see. And then you're going to put on your big show at the end of the year, and you're basically going to, bookend that with the entire Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty show and everything else. I think that you're going to see a lot of wrestling fans in Sumo Hall at the end of this year.
Yeah, quite possibly. It was just something interesting and something I noted from the press conference, the venue that I was talking about in relation to January 3rd Stardom New Year Dream Show, that'll be in Tokyo Garden Theatre. And that, as I've already mentioned, that will be the first time a pro wrestling company has ran there. Also on January 3rd, presumably not in, what's the word I'm looking for? Not clashing with New Year Dream, is also the Wrestle Kingdom 19 kickoff, though a venue is yet to be announced for that. So something that is obvious here is that Stardom's profile is certainly being improved, at least in terms of New Japan. New Japan is very much keen on building up Stardom as this dominant women's promotion, really making sure that the focus is on them, that they're highlighted. You know, you mentioned, man, you know, we won't dwell on it, but the match between Kairi Hojo and Tam Nakano was really sort of indicative of how New Japan, whoever that encapsulated, whether it's people in booking, whether it's higher ups, whatever it is, it really did show what they thought of the relationship with Stardom, in my opinion, anyway, and certainly of the IWGP Women's Championship. However, if you look now 2 years later, you know, away from a 5-minute match that was pretty much just a vehicle for Mercedes Moné's debut, the fact that we now have all of this stuff that's including Stardom having its name on a show in the Tokyo Dome, which I cannot stress enough how amazing this is for the company. Whether they have 2, 4, 7 matches on this card, it's still amazing. For those wrestlers that are chosen to wrestle on this card, whether it's a historic crossover sort of show where they're wrestling against people from New Japan, CMLL and AEW, or whether it's sort of exhibition matches and the odd title match, it doesn't matter. They're wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, and the chances are it's going to be the biggest crowd that Stardom have ever wrestled in front of, because currently that record stands at 7,100. That was at the Ariake Arena Historic Crossover 1. We've got Historic Crossover 2 coming up in November. That's going to be in the Edion Arena Osaka. That has the potential to break that 7,000 barrier. However, a show in the Tokyo Dome that also features AEW love or hate the relationship with AEW, and I know there's people that sit, you know, viably on both sides of that divide, and, you know, it's not for me to tell you where to sit. Absolutely everyone is entitled to their opinion. Wherever you sit, that's going to draw names, certainly, because I believe it's AEW's first Japanese show. So you're going to have people turning up just for AEW. So Stardom are going to capitalize on this. And we saw, Matt, from your venture to Forbidden Door, that people are seeing these Stardom wrestlers, your Momo Watanabes, your Tam Nakano, and especially at the moment, Mina Shirakawa. And we saw it with Azumi when she was on the AEW Collision tapings and things like this. We saw how much that they were benefiting from this additional international exposure, and how much American audiences who weren't familiar with that were already like, oh, okay, yeah, these are really, really good. And if they can get that with a domestic audience as well, get them wrestling in front of 10, 11, 12, 13,000 people maybe, it's going to be huge for them. Really, really huge. Now, I know Darren Chatton, friend of the show, Darren, big up Darren.
My man.
I know that he's not a big fan of us talking about AEW, so we'll wrap this talk up very quickly. But Matt, I just wanted your quick word on this. Hopefully, Darren, you will at least allow us this bit, just because it's a huge news.
Yeah. And again, you can like what you like. And again, I shout out
Exactly.
Darren quite a bit on the podcast. He helps me out a lot when I have to do the solo shows. And Darren's the man. And we and him have a lot of really good chats just about wrestling.
He is. He's a good guy.
In general. So yeah, really, always a shout out to my man Darren. But you know, he doesn't like AEW, and that's okay. I love AEW. He doesn't like it, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree, folks. That's just the way the world works. Not everybody sees eye to eye on certain things. You mentioned Mercedes Moné, who is the CEO, correct, Rob Goodwin?
That is the one.
Well, I just want to give you and our listeners a little update. I just sent a text message to the CEO of Matt Turner Enterprises and let her know, by that I mean my wife, and let her know that I plan on going to, if this is a yearly event, I plan on going in that holiday season of 2025 to 2026, and she gave me the thumbs up. So, Mr. Rob Goodwin, it looks like in the year 2025, next year, we're going to be busy on the road and in the air, considering the fact that, again, we're about 85, 90% confirmed that we will be going to Las Vegas for WrestleMania weekend, and figured, why let the party stop there, brother? Let's go to Japan for Christmas next year. So it looks like not unless anything crazy happens, which that's the way the world works. Looks like next year, not only will I be going to WrestleMania, but I will be going to these stream of shows that bleeds into 2026. So big ups, my friend. Really, really great stuff. I'm super excited for it. Super excited for all the wrestling, and I would not be shocked with all these wrestling fans in the area, very much like we see during WrestleMania weekend, if you see a Marigold put on a show, a Pro Wrestling Noah put on a show, or we know that Marigold and Pro Wrestling Noah have ran show, or the very first Marigold match was on a Pro Wrestling Noah show. Maybe they do something similar to what New Japan and Stardom are doing. Maybe on the second, or maybe on an afternoon or a night show, they take advantage of all the wrestling fans coming in, very much like we see what the independent wrestling companies do over here in the States at WrestleMania, and they run a show, because I think that'd be great. And not only that, Rob, that would give us more reason to go to more wrestling in Japan. So this is all just really great news for me. They're working together, so we're seeing those barriers come down so we can see those dream matches that we want to see. So excellent stuff. I'm super excited, my friend, and yes, this will be an exciting time for us over at the Stardom Cast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just final AEW point, Darren, I promise. Tony Khan was asked on the presser in regards to Forbidden Door, and this comes courtesy of friend of the show, Sky Wrestling. During the Forbidden Door media call yesterday, Tony Khan revealed that the plan moving forward is for more of AEW's women's division to head over to Stardom in the future. And quote, in addition to bringing Stardom wrestlers into AEW, you could see a lot of AEW wrestlers traveling to Stardom, and we're working on that. Wrestlers are working on getting their visas, and it's something we are excited about. Willow Nightingale was the first AEW competitor to compete in a Stardom ring, defending the TBS Championship successfully against Tam at Flashing Champions 2024. Mina Shirakawa, Tam Nakano, and Momo Watanabe then represented Stardom this Sunday at Forbidden Door. Thank you for Scotty Wrestling for that. So, we talked a little bit, Matt, or we've made allusions to the reason that we think that the full sort of card or the full field for the 5-star Grand Prix, which of course starts 10th of August, hasn't been announced, is because there is going to be AEW participation. Now, we've talked a little bit about that, but in terms of speculation, there are three names that really jump out at me that I'm desperate to see in the 5-star Grand Prix. I've made it very clear when I've talked about this, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a really good idea for some of the women from AEW to do a tour of Japan, because we saw how it benefited someone like a Mariah May. But in terms of the 5-star Grand Prix, I don't want AEW women's wrestlers in there at the expense of Stardom wrestlers. Now, if we still get a Stardom field and, Saya Kamitani, who I think is absolutely nailed on for a place in this 5-star Grand Prix, I personally think that Koguma should as well, but that's by the by. As long as everyone that should be in that tournament is in that tournament, I do not mind the odd guest spot. Now, just speaking off my own personal preference, I don't think Mercedes Moné is coming over. That's just me. I could be wrong. I could be hilariously wrong. She could turn up on Korakuen tomorrow and I would be hilariously wrong, but I don't think it'd happen. If I was to get Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, and Steph Vaca
oh my God,
in the 5-star Grand Prix, I would be a very, very little happy Robert. Now, obviously, we might have one person, we might have 5 people, who knows? I believe there's 12 spots still open. Of course, there's still quite a lot of Stardom wrestlers that aren't announced. For example, Mina Shirakawa hasn't been announced yet, so there's obviously going to be Stardom wrestlers that are announced. However, if we are to, in particular, Steph Vaca's, as you mentioned, Matt, her stock was raised massively after Forbidden Door. I'd love to see her there. I'd love to see Willow Nightingale, because I think she showed that she works a really good Japanese style when she worked with Tam. And Chris Statlander is just an absolute beast. The way she works with Momo Watanabe. In fact, I could see a brilliant, hellacious time limit draw happening if she was drawn in the same block as a Momo. I think she'd work really, really well with Japanese talent. What about you, Matt, if you were to pick some people for the 5-star Grand Prix from AEW?
Oh, geez. It's a hit everywhere, because you have to understand, even though the talent that may not, on paper may not be able to keep up with the Stardom wrestlers, guess what they're going to be doing for 4, 5, 6 weeks? Training in the Stardom dojo with the Stardom wrestlers, traveling with the Stardom wrestlers, and their stock is only going race. I know me and you're on the same boat. When Mariah May debuted, we knew nothing about her. And 6-7 months, she became a huge star. Same thing with Megan Bayne. Me and you, when she debuted at night one of the 5-star Grand Prix, we had no idea who she was. And by the time she left such a better wrestler because you're improving. You're doing reps with the best wrestlers in the world. If I had to pick Steph Back, it would probably be my number one pick. I know Ty Conti's coming back. She had a really, really great run, and then obviously she got married and had a kid, and she created life, and that's bigger than anything that anybody can do in the world of professional wrestling. So I would love to see Ty Conti there. Sky Blue, I mean, her stock is raised a lot. We said Chris Statlander. Why can't I think? I just mentioned her name. Oh, Athena. Athena would be great. Cream Amidala would be great. I'm going in the Ring of Honor pool. There's a lot of really great talent, but hopefully it's just maybe one or two or three, again, because we want our Saya Edis, we want our Kogamas in there. Obviously, Mina Shirakawa is going to be in there. There's no way that she's not going to be in there. And then we might get Miko Wada. I know you're probably going to touch upon it in a little bit. She's got a bunch of matches coming up with some Stardom wrestlers, and she's holding the secondary belt. And I think that might be a deal that President Okada worked out, saying, right, I'll send these wrestlers over to Sendai Girls. I'll put this belt on Miko Wada, but we want Miko Wada in our 5-star Grand Prix, which I'm hoping happens. But this 5-star Grand Prix is shaping up very much like everyone the last 5 or 6 years is shaping up to be absolutely can't miss professional wrestling going on with the fantastic folks over at Stardom. And considering the fact this is the first 5-star Grand Prix that will not have Mr. Rasi Ogawa, the legendary Rasi Ogawa, his fingerprints all over. They have, obviously it's big shoes to fill, and they have, by all, from what we're seeing, what we might have happen, it's looking like this 5-star Grand Prix is going to be an absolute home run. But as far as if I had to pick one or two, Steph Vacker, even though she's not under contract with AEW, she would be my number one pick. I would absolutely love to see her in the 5-star Grand Prix. As far as I would go with Serena Deeb. I think she would be my first overall pick. Her match with Mina Shirakawa, because I know it was on Rampage, and Rampage is kind of like the third-rated show. That I'm not being disrespectful. It's like out of the 3, Collision and Dynamite, that's kind of like the third brand. That match they had was absolutely fantastic. It really, really was. That was terrific. I'm guessing we are going to get some. I don't think she's going to be in the 5-star, but I think we're going to see Toni Storm pop up in Stardom sometime between now and the end of the year, just because of what we're seeing with the interaction with Mariah and Mina over on AEW, and the fact that she came out for that match with Mariah May at Forbidden Door in her old Stardom tracksuit that she had to dig up from 2016, 2017. So I would not be shocked if you see Toni Storm do a one-off, maybe at Stardom X Stardom, or at, again, the big show coming up at the end of the year, because you're going to have AEW wrestlers over there, at the Dream Queendom or whatever it's going to be called in Sumo Hall. But I think my number one pick would be Serena Deeb. I think she would do fan. Can you imagine a match with her and Azumi, Hazuki, Mayu, Tam, Momo, Starlight Kid, Natsupoi, Saori Anou. The list goes on and on. I think Serena Deeb would be my number one pick out of all the contracted wrestlers in AEW. I would go with her. But again, there's no misses. There's no misses because all those wrestlers are really good. They're all coming over with anywhere in between 500,000 to 1 million people watch them every week on AEW TV. So you're going to get what I call the Andy Header effect, right? You're going to get new eyes that are come over. Like Andy Header saw Mariah May and was like, boy, I'm going to watch this Mariah May. And what did she do over in Stardom? And then he's like, oh my God, this Azumi's great. I've heard of Mayu. She's terrific. Momo's great. And then he absolutely fell in love with Stardom. So you're going to get a lot of new eyes on the product if you bring over, an Anna Jay, a Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, to people that may have never seen Stardom, have only heard about it, that they're going to wind up staying because of the phenomenal talents, because of, the Sherrys and the Natsuko and so on and so forth. So, man, I'm super excited for the future of not just these companies, but wrestling as a whole. Wrestling as a whole just is, everything from WWE to the indies. It's so great to be a professional wrestling fan, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry to put a dampener on what you've just said, because I personally think Athena would be incredible in the 5-star Grand Prix. I believe she's injured.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, sir. But hey, always next year.
That's true. That's true. I'd love to say the John Cena effect, but it looks like I think she tore ligaments in her ankle. And the last time I saw her, she was in a boot and a cast. So I think that we can write her off. Again, to sign that all off, as long as it's not at the expense of Stardom wrestlers. I think that's the really key thing here, because I'd love to give a chance to, some of the wrestlers who have been, like a Miyu Amasaki, for example, who has thoroughly deserved a place in the 5-star Grand Prix this year due to just kicking ass on the Stardom World shows. She's, we talked about her a couple of weeks ago about how she sort of adopted the Hazuki mantra of no days off. Miyu Amasaki mode, supernova mode, if you will, where she just goes. So I'd before I see AEW wrestlers, I want to see Miyu Amasaki and Saya Kamitani in that tournament bracket. If I get those two, if I get my, the usual suspects in the tournament, I'd be happy. But however, if we were to get an Anna Jay instead of a Saya Kamitani, I'll be a crossboy. But I'm sure that won't happen. And if, just by the way, if seeing as you're putting Mikari Iwata in there, if I got Chihiro Hashimoto in the 5-star Grand Prix, geez. Oh my God. Anyway, moving on slightly, just want to give a couple of updates in regards to Stardom wrestlers out and about. Momo Watanabe, after her loss on the Forbidden Door 0 Hour, which AEW commentators, she lost to a Twilight Dream, just for future reference. She wanted to change her proposed match with Dash Chisako at July 15th Sendai Girls show. She has made that a hardcore match. So Momo Watanabe versus Dash at July 15th Sendai Girls show. That is now going to be a hardcore match. We've also got a little bit of an update in regards to Saya Kamitani and Rani Agami and how they're doing in the Catch the Wave tournament. Kamitani defeated Risa Sera earlier today. She's moving on to the semifinals against Itsuki Aoki on July 14th, while Rani Agami defeated Chi-Chi, and she will face Pro Wrestling Wave's Hanukkah in the finals of the Future Block Series. So potentially, in particular for Rani Agami, I feel, really, really, really big things. Of course, you can't, it's obviously a huge achievement for Saya Kamitani, but, for someone who is right at the start of their career, I think this is really huge for Rani Agami. And the final thing as well, speaking of Sendai Girls, we have got some more Stardom involvement. Obviously, we've got Mikari Iwata appearing on the Korakuen Hall show on the 4th of July, but we're going to talk about that at the end of the show during the show previews. Mina Shirakawa, however, will be going to Sendai Girls to face off against the Sendai's Girl World Champion Mikari Iwata on July 20th. Also on that card, we have got Team 200K, which is you, not you, Matt, and Chihiro Hashimoto against Starlight Kid and Miyu Amasaki. So, Matt, again, even more exposure for Stardom wrestlers, and Mikari Iwata versus Mina Shirakawa could be a really, really hard-hitting affair. I'd be very, very happy with this match.
Yeah, it really seems like Stardom has something up their sleeve, because not only are they sending over a big star in Mina Shirakawa, it's a Mina Shirakawa, again, coming off multiple appearances on worldwide television. So that's going to draw a lot of money to take on their ace, and Miko Iwata, who we're big, big fans of. She had that great match with Saori Anou at the conversion that we did our review for last week. So, and again, Miyu Amasaki, Starlight Kid. We have Momo Watanabe going over there. So it really seems like Stardom is trying to help out Sendai Girls, who Sendai Girls is on an absolute roll from what I understand. Fortunately, I don't have the time to watch all their shows. I kind of just pick and choose what I can watch because they are on Wrestle Universe, and obviously I have a subscription. So we can cover the Marigold show, so that just happens to be a bonus. But what I'm seeing in Sendai Girls, I'm really enjoying. So Sendai Girls is on an absolute roll. And then when you're taking over the big Stardom wrestlers, again, the Saori Anous, the Momo Watanabes, the Mina Shirakawas, the Miyus, Starlight Kid, that's only going to help them out. But that Stardom is going to be getting something big back in return, and rightfully so. It's not like, yeah, we're going to put our secondary belt on a non-contracted wrestler. We're going to send all these wrestlers over. Just, just say thanks and send us a Christmas card and we'll call it even. No, they're going to get something big in return, and that very well could be Mika Iwata in the 5-star Grand Prix, and maybe her and her tag partner, Red Energy, in the Goddess of Stardom tournament. And can you imagine that tag team and what probably are going to be a loaded Goddess of Stardom tag team tournament, considering the fact how great the tag division Stardom has been over the past 6 or 7 months? I mean, good God, we would just be in wrestling heaven. So fingers crossed. We're hoping that all happens. Rob, I'm going to do a little fantasy booking on these Sendai Girl shows. Would you like to hear my fantasy booking, sir?
Always.
I think Momo Watanabe defeats Dash. I think that Saori Anou and Mika Iwata go to a time limit draw. I think Momo Watanabe challenges Saori Anou on that show for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. Momo Watanabe challenges Mika Iwata for the Wonder of Stardom Championship coming up at the end of the month on that show. I believe it is the 27th for the, they basically told us the main event is going to be for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. I'm saying Mika Iwata defeats Momo Watanabe. She gets put in the same bracket as Saori Anou. Saori Anou then defeats her in the 5-star Grand Prix. And then the next pay-per-view coming off the 5-star Grand Prix, which is usually Stardom X Stardom, that's where we see Saori Anou get her Wonder of Stardom Championship match back. I think that's be a great little 3-match series with Iwata winning the belt. Then you go to a time limit draw. It'll be a 4-match series. And then they go to time limit draw. Saori Anou defeats her in the 5-star Grand Prix. So then we have 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. And then we get the big blow-off at the pay-per-view coming up in the fall, where Saori Anou wins her Wonder of Stardom Championship match back, our belt back. That's a possibility, my friend. Again, we have Momo Watanabe in the building, and Stardom on challenging for belts when they're on shows like that.
Yeah, I think they're focusing quite a lot on sort of the spiral of Saori Anou, and I don't think they would be focusing on that spiral and, that sort of lack of confidence that Anou has in herself just to have her win the title back a week later. They seem to have, as you said, man, they seem to have something up their sleeve almost. So I'm wondering if we are going to have sort of a prolonged series there. Have Saori Anou really managed to get her win back against Mika Iwata, later on? We know we have got pay-per-views lined up in October and things like that. And then have Natsupoi take the belt from her at Dream Queendom, because we seem to be teasing all of this a little bit too much for it simply not to happen. And for Natsupoi to be sort of that, almost that voice in Saori Anou's ear, just, come on, get over yourself. Let's do it. And we even saw it in the match with Amisori, where Amisori is literally mocking Saori Anou, who's clearly not herself. So it would make sense for that to happen. Whether it does, whether Mika Iwata is in the 5-star Grand Prix, I don't know. I would be amazed if they didn't have. If Mika Iwata is still the white belt champion after that Sendai Girls show, I'd be amazed if they don't have her in the tournament. Because short of injury, I can't think of the last time the white belt champion was not in the 5-star Grand Prix. It just doesn't happen, to my knowledge.
Then it also adds to it. Anybody that defeats the, whether it's the high speed champion, whether it's the red belt champion, the Wonder champion, they can lay claim to be getting a title shot coming off the 5-star Grand Prix, and then we're like, okay, what dream matches will we might see? So that really just adds the intrigue of the role that is the 5-star Grand Prix.
Just speaking of Saya Kamitani, I think it is important just to note, there was something on Twitter that I noticed about how a fan had basically gone up to her as a fan, an autograph signing, and had bought a load of pictures to get a sign, and then basically spent the entire time being an absolute douche to her to try and make her cry. His words, he said, "I want to try and make you cry." Don't be an idiot. I don't think for a minute it was anyone listening to this podcast, but, just if you're going to go and see a wrestler, okay, whether it's for an autograph, whether it's for a picture, whether it's just for a chat, don't be an idiot to them. Don't be a plum and ruin it for everybody else. Because Saya, according to the translation that I saw, I cannot remember who it was, she was then really upset, had to leave the autograph table to calm herself down, and then had to come back, but then didn't really want to talk to anyone else. Understandably so. So yeah, if you're going to do that, don't be an idiot. Like, I don't really understand why you would go out of your way to try and upset someone. If you are one of those people, you really do need to check yourself in the mirror, because it's not exactly a great trait to have if that's something that you like doing. So I'll get off my soapbox now, and we'll carry on with the actual show. Matt, good news. We're getting even more Stardom live streams. Of all the shows this month, only 3 of video on demand. So we have the 4th and the 7th of July, both in Korakuen. They're both live. Stardom in Osaka is video on demand on the 12th. On July 13th in the Yamato Arena, which of course is the same time, or the same day, should I say, as Summer Destiny. That's going to be live. Stardom in Maibara on the 14th of July. That's video on demand, as is Stardom in Sendai on the 19th. Stardom in Chiba and Stardom in Korakuen on the 21st and 23rd of July, respectively, are both live on Stardom World. And then, of course, we close the month out with the Stardom Sapporo Rendezvous shows, the Wonder Rendezvous on the 27th, and the World Rendezvous show on the 28th. Those are both back-to-back pay-per-views. So, Matt, we're seeing even more live streams now with Stardom, and it's so much better, not just from a content creation standpoint, but just for fans who, haven't got to wait a week and sort of stay away from Twitter so that we didn't get the results spoiled for us. It really is a breath of fresh air, and kudos to everyone over at Stardom World.
Yeah, it's available as soon as possible. And again, as we're recording this, it is the 3rd of July. Tomorrow is the 4th of July over here in the States. I'm off work tomorrow, and I think the Stardom show in Korakuen Hall starts at 6 a.m. And I'm going to get up. I'll probably up. I'm usually up earlier anyway, but I'm going to get up, and literally the first thing I'm going to do is, after I feed my cats, is I am going to watch that Stardom show, because I'm super excited for it. Again, it's like anytime there's a big wrestling show that's on early in the morning. When I used to cover New Japan for a podcast I did years ago, when New Japan was on a roll back in 17, 18, and 19, that I had no problem getting up early, because you're getting up early to watch great pro wrestling. And that's what we're going to be doing with these Stardom shows. Obviously, next Saturday, that's what we're going to be doing with the Summer Destiny show from Marigold. So really, really good stuff. They're upping their production quality. We've seen it in the way that the rings are being mic'd, where the crowds are much, much louder. The camera shots are better. Not they were bad before, but they're better. And even like some of the stages we've seen this past year for the pay-per-views are better. So you can see that Stardom is putting a lot more money into their production, and it's coming across the fact that we're literally getting almost every show in the month of July live streamed, and then we know that we are going to be getting every single 5-star Grand Prix match in August. They made mention a week or two ago. Those are going to be live streamed as well. So it looks like over the course of the next 2 months, maybe 4 or 5 shows in Stardom is going to be video on demand, where everything else is going to be live streamed. So that's all thumbs up, all systems go, my friend.
As I mentioned earlier on the show, obviously there hasn't been a Marigold Standard yet this week. That's because of the show's not being up on Wrestle Universe yet. So this will be the first time we've talked about it. But speaking of Marigold Summer Destiny 2024, the full card has now been announced. And it is as follows. So Komomo Minami is going to be taking on a debuting Rhea Sato, who we saw, of course, make her first appearance at the Korakuen Hall show earlier in June. The Twin Towers, Koki Amare and Chika Goto, will be taking on Victoria Yuzuki and a mystery opponent. We'll be talking about that in a moment as well. Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki will be taking on Zeta Steel and Myla Grace. In the final of the Superfly Championship Tournament, Misa Matsui will be taking on Natsumi Shozuki. It's Marigold versus LLPWX as Nanae Takahashi, Nao Ishikawa, and Mai Sakurai will be taking on the LLPWX team, easy for me to say, of Shinobu Kandori, Takako Inoue, and Nori. Because they went to, unbelievably, a third time limit draw. Mirai and Miko Ono will be going to another semi-final match, this one with a 30-minute time limit. The winner will then take on Bozilla in the final of the United National Championship tournament. And then, of course, those two main events, Utami Hayashishita versus Io Sky, Queen of Queens match, and then Julia versus Sari. Now, it was also tweeted out by Marigold's Twitter page that Julia's participation is still pending medical clearance that is due to happen either later this week or early next week. If she is cleared, Rossi Ogawa will decide if this match is for the Marigold World Championship. So, Matt, we might not have any champions crowned at the moment in Marigold, but we might come out of this show with 3.
Yeah, it sure looks like it. And again, we have another time limit draw with Mirai and Miko Ano. And as you made mention a few times ago, partner, that show has not yet been uploaded to Wrestle Universe, so we don't know what that looked like. But I mean, we're getting 4 Mirai versus Miko Ano matches. I wasn't complaining about 1 and 2, but now we're 3 and 4. That might be, it'd be one thing if they spread it out. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, we have to save reserve until we see how it all plays out. But it really looks like Bozilla, who's already just running through people, is going to have an easy going. Not an easy going, but considering the fact that Mirai Miko Ano probably in that match coming up in Sumo Hall just next week. Wow, just next week. Holy jeez, we're flying there.
I know.
And that's the strategy. That's the strategy. If you look at the very first ECW pay-per-view, Raven was the champion, and he would be facing the winner of Terry Funk, Stevie Richards, and the Sandman. It was basically, they went out and killed each other, and then Raven came out, beat up Terry Funk, and Terry Funk got the fluke win. So maybe that's something that they're going to do. They're going to build sympathy for Miko Ano and or Mirai going into that match with Bozilla, who's just absolutely dominating the entire field over at Marigold, and her booking has been spot on. I mean, literally ain't nothing but an A+ booking on Bozilla. So interesting things going there. Fingers crossed that Julia is cleared, because if she's not, they're gonna have to try to scramble to find a replacement for her in that dream match that we've been waiting for a few years with Sari and Julia. And you really can't replace Julia, but I wonder who the Hat Man's going to try to get in the final hour. Maybe be Kyrie. Maybe Kyrie versus Sari. Maybe that's the way they go, because they do have that working relationship with WWE, and obviously Io is on that show. Maybe that's the way they go about it. As like, how do we replace Julia? Well, maybe we do it by bringing in somebody that's an absolute legend in Japanese wrestling, that's still fantastic, that's seen on a worldwide basis. So that would be my only guess, as a suitable replacement, but we're hoping that Julia does get cleared and we get that match with Julia and Sari. But all in all, my man, that's an absolutely crazy loaded card.
Yeah, it really is. And I do wonder if the fact that we've had so many Mirai and Miko Ano matches, I wonder if that's how they're going to get Bozilla to win without people being annoyed at Mirai being buried. The fact that Mirai has to go through another grueling test against Miku, only then to have to face Bozilla, a fresh Bozilla as well, who's been so dominant in her run in Marigold. I wonder if that's how we're going to get to Bozilla being the white belt champion. Of course, we don't know, but I'm wondering if that's why they're doing this, because really you are stacking the deck against whoever comes out on top of that semifinal, whether it's Mirai or whether it's Miko Ono. Whoever it is, I'm sure it's going to be a great match. Obviously, we haven't seen match 3 yet in the series, but I'm looking forward to it. What I'm really intrigued by is this mystery opponent that's going to be teaming with Victoria Yuzuki. And credit to Himanshu_Doi on Twitter, who has actually put together just a little list of free agents that have become free in the past couple of days. And Matt, you'll notice one of the names on here. Kazuna Tanaka has left Pro Wrestling Wave. That was on July 1st. Naho Yamada left Actors Girls on June 30th. And Maya Fukuda left GLEAT on July 1st. Now, unfortunately, I'm not terribly familiar with either Tanaka or Yamada, but Maya Fukuda, I know that you'd be very, very excited to see her team with Victoria Yuzuki. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it might be Tanaka, Minoru Tanaka's daughter. I think we saw her on a New Blood show a handful of months ago, and I've seen her on YouTube clips and Twitter clips, and she's really, really impressive, considering the fact how young she is in life and in her career. That would be my guess. I think they literally announced that she was a free agent right around the same time they announced that this card
They did, yeah.
was announced. And it's just like, that seems the way things work over there in the land of the rising sun. So my guess it would be Minoru Tanaka's daughter. But if it was Maya Fukuda, I would definitely not say no to that.
No, definitely not. I mean, obviously you could say, it's going to be Aja Kong. It's not going to be Aja Kong. But, and obviously there was a lot of buzz, or a very brief buzz, when people saw that Rossy Ogawa had met with Mayu Iwatani. Again, it's like, no. And they actually both put on Twitter, there's nothing weird about this. It's just, we're friends. It's a father-daughter relationship. We just met up for lunch. And believe it or not, people can just meet up for lunch. Speaking of Mr. Ogawa, the Hatman, Rossi Vice himself, he did an interview with Hochi, where he said, quote, "For a small organization like us, Ryogoku is a big deal, so we want to make it a success and then do something big again. We'll be making various announcements at the Ryogoku show." Now, this screams to me, Matt, that another big show is not too far round the corner for Marigold. This, by the way, comes courtesy of Atmira Wrestling, by the way, Matt.
Yeah, that could be it. Maybe the debut of maybe some new talent or something like that. That's a possibility. Maybe a Natty Neidhart. I don't know. I know her contract is up. No, I'm not. I mean, she's made it very, very, very apparent over the last 5 or 6 months that she wasn't going to re-sign her contract, and she wanted to wrestle over in Japan. I mean, that to get a heart back into Japanese wrestling scene. I think that would be something. That's a possibility. It could be combination of a few things. I know a lot of people think that it is going to be Mayu debuting with the company, or it's like, guys, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. They just had lunch together. They're advertising Mayu for all these shows at the end of the year and beginning of next year. So everybody just and second of all, they can't do that. It's contract tampering. They can't be. I'm sure Rossi's like, oh, here's our contract. Like that's illegal. You can't be doing that. So I'm not saying Mayu might not go to Marigold sometime in the future. That's a possibility, but I don't think it's going to be that. I know a lot of people think that it's going to be Mayu debuting, that she's going to be at the Summer Destiny show, considering the fact that she's advertised for the 5-star Grand Prix. So probably not going to be Mayu, everybody. Everybody pump the brakes, relax. But yeah, if I had to bet, I would bet that they're probably going to go back to Sumo Hall maybe sometime in the winter. And maybe they may announce that Io and Kairi will both be on that show. That's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more WWE talent crossover with Marigold, of course, on the same day as Summer Destiny. As I mentioned before, we have got Marufuji versus AJ Styles in Noah. I mean, just doors being knocked down every which way, isn't there? Sticking with the theme of Marigold, they did announce the cards for their last 2 shows before their pay-per-view in Ryogoku, and the cards are as follows. This first one from Saturday is in Osaka and will be video on demand. Komomo Minami will be taking on the debuting Momoka Hanazono, who we've seen in the high-speed division in Stardom over the last couple of years. Victoria Yuzuki, versus Zeta Steel. Natsumi Shozuki and Misa Matsui working together against Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki. Nanae Takahashi and Nao Ishikawa versus Bozilla and Myla Grace. And then in your main event, Utami Hayashishita, Mirai and Mai Sakurai versus Miko Aono, Koki Amare and Chika Goto. Matt, obviously the debut of Momoka Hanazono against Komomo Minami is going to be very exciting, but that main event also extremely exciting. I'm a big fan of the Twin Towers anyway, and I'm always a big fan of when Mirai and Utami team up.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really hard-hitting and fun match, and you'll probably see Mirai and Utami, who again were the stars in that match. Utami does a great job, we mentioned all the time, making sure that everybody in the match gets over. Regardless, I'm assuming Utami's probably going to get the win here to keep her building momentum towards that match with Io Shirai or Io Sky coming up just in the following week. But I think we're going to see a really good showing from one of our new favorite tag teams over there in Marigold. So that's going to be interesting. And Momoko Hanazono, she's fantastic. We've seen her in a handful of matches over on Stardom. And don't be shocked that if maybe she is the mystery partner coming up in Summer Destiny. Maybe this is something just to see how she works with the Marigold roster and with the crowd. So that's a possibility that we may see her in Marigold a little bit more. I hope we do. She's terrific. And there's a lot of really good matches and places that she would fit in. So yeah, really, really good card. Basically the appetizer we have for Summer Destiny.
And then the following day in, where are we? There we go. On Sunday, the 7th, we have Chikagoto versus Komomo Minami, Koki Amare versus Myla Grace, Natsumi Shozuki versus Victoria Yuzuki versus Misa Matsui, Nanae Takahashi, Nao Ishikawa, and Mai Sakurai in a warm-up before Summer Destiny against Nagisa Nozaki, Chiaki, and Zeta Steel. And then in your main event, and Matt, this is the definition of tasty. Utami Hayashishita and Mirai versus Miko Ano and Bozilla. Exciting, Matt, definitely.
Oh boy, yeah, that's going to be something. I think that's got TLD written all over it. And I got no problem with that. That's going to be hard hitting, a lot of suplexes, a lot of Bozilla yelling and screaming. No, that's wow. I didn't know that. What a heck of a main event that's going to be. I'm going to be all eyes and ears for that one, my friend.
And this show is from Nagata, so it will again be video on demand. But again, Wrestle Universe have a relatively quick turnaround. So the show from the 29th of June is already up, and that was up earlier today. So about a 4-day turnaround. So it's not too bad. Before then, No, do you know what? Let's get on to the show reviews. We've covered a lot of news there for both Stardom and Marigold. So let's talk about the shows that we're going to be reviewing today. The shows from the 29th and the 30th of June. The first one from the 29th of June inside Korakuen Hall. 946 people in attendance, Matt, which is a significantly better number from the 700 or so they pulled in last month. It's up from the two previous Korakuen Hall cards and is therefore the highest since the 12th of April 2024. How much of that do you think is the intrigue surrounding what happened post-conversion?
I think the combination of the intrigue, the fact we got 3 title matches, and the fact how hot the tag team division is, the fact that we got a phenomenal FWC versus Wingori match at the pay-per-view last week, and then Hazuki basically just set up the main event. Simple thing. Hey, we let's do it in Korakuen against Konami and Shuri. So I think it's a combination of all those things. With now Stardom, they're really, really starting to get hot. They're really starting to build some momentum, and I hope they keep it up. So I think it was a combination of, again, the intrigue of what happened, the conversion, 3 title matches, and the fact that the tag division is easily, in my opinion, the best in all of wrestling, and that we had a must-see tag match on for the main event.
Absolutely. Another FWC match banger, which I'm sure surprises absolutely no one. So your results for that show are as follows. In a high-speed championship match, Saya Kamitani, the champion, made her second successful title defense, defeating Fukigen Death in 4 minutes and 49 seconds with what was billed as a spinning leg lock. Aya Sakura got her first ever singles victory, defeating Rian in 6 minutes and 24 seconds with a diving knee drop. In a 10-woman tag match, the God's Eye team of Amisori, Rana Yagami, Saki Kashima, and Hina, who's crucially not part of God's Eye here, but was teaming with them, and Lady C, defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi, Saori Anou, Sayaka Kurora, Tam Nakano, and Yuna Miyazumori, with Amisori pinning Saori Anou in 9 minutes and 11 seconds with the like a thunderbolt. 8-woman tag team match with the 4XL team of Azumi, Meisera, Miyu Amasaki, and Starlight Kid, defeating the Uedatai team of Momo Watanabe, Nads, Katora, Ruaka, and Tekla. Starlight Kid pinning Ruaka with the Momo Latch in 12 minutes and 59 seconds. 8-woman tag team match next. The Stars team of Mai Iwatani, Hanan, Momokogo, and Saya Ida defeated the EXV team of Maika, Watsukiyama, Zena, and Hanako, with Hanan pinning Hanako with a backdrop hold. In the Future of Stardom Championship match, the champion Rina made her record leveling ninth title defense against Nanami of Pro Wrestling Diana in a time limit draw, 15-minute match there, and then the Goddess of Stardom title match at the end of the card. In that main event, the God's Eye team of Konami and Syuri defeated the champions FWC, Hazuki and Koguma, by knockout, becoming the next and the new Goddess of Stardom champions in 16 minutes and 19 seconds. Konami submitting Hazuki with a sleeper hold rear naked choke, and the referee throwing it out via TKO. Konami, this is her third reign with the championships. Syuri, it is her second. Matt, lots of things to talk about. Not only my lack of knowledge, apparently, about where Nanami actually wrestles. My mind went completely blank then, and I don't know why. But a lot to talk about on this card. Obviously, we started with Hiroshi Tanahashi making an appearance with President Okada. We've already touched on that. We had President Okada announce the Thursday Korakuen Hall main event, when Natsupoi and Saori Anou will be joining forces against the Sendai Girls team of Mikari Wata and Manami. And then, of course, we've got new challenges for both the Goddess of Stardom Championships and the Future of Stardom Championship. And on top of that, Fukuoka Double Crazy have another installment of their extremely solid Worker of the Year case. I mean, this, top to bottom, was a bloody enjoyable show.
Really seems like lately they are, for these bigger shows, not just these bigger shows, we'll talk about on the show the very next day, that they're starting the shows off with a bang. We saw it at the conversion when there was FWC versus Wingori. This with Saya Kamitani and Fuki and Death. And we have our fun with the clown. We do. But, I mean, Kaori Yoneyama, she's an absolute legend that knows how to do her gimmick and gimmick well. And there was a lot of close near falls in this match. And I mentioned last week, I wouldn't be shocked if Fuki and Death wins the high-speed championship, thus, continue the breakdown of Saya Kamitani. And there was a couple things, and this match went less than 5 minutes. There's a couple of times in this match that I thought that they were going to switch the belt, and that has to do with just the combination of how great Saya Kamitani is at kicking out 2.999 and how good Fukin Death is at really teasing the fact that she thinks she has in one of these trap pinfalls, but don't. But really, really good stuff here. The show, top to bottom, was great, and we set up a lot. Again, Saori Anou, we're seeing this tumble, this spiral down, where she came in with all this fanfare and had a really great 5-star Grand Prix, defeats Mirai at the end of the year for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, and then loses to an outsider. And then she gets pinned here by Ami Sohrei. And again, great job on Stardom saying, hey, we're going to use this platform to plug our next main event that's going to happen here in less than a week's time. It's just like, so if you're in the crowd and you're liking what you see, and like, oh, by the way, Manami, who rightfully so goes to a 15-minute time limit draw, she looks great here. She's teaming with her white belt champion, Miko Wada, to take on Saori Anou and Natsupoi. Phenomenal tag team. So if you're in that crowd and you're like, I'm going to go to this show, like, where do I buy? I can buy tickets downstairs at the box office. Really great strategic booking on Stardom by giving you that great match. And then, oh, by the way, when we come back here in less than a week's time, this is going to be your main event. And again, I thought it was very, very great booking. I don't think anybody thought Rina was going to lose the Future of Stardom Championship. But Manami looked great here, and she went to a time limit draw. So she doesn't lose, and then she comes back less than a week later to be in the main event against Saori Anou and Natsupoi. So really good stuff there. We got Ronda Yugami set up as the next Future of Stardom challenger. Yes, please. We sing her praises all the time on this show. They slowly built to that maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's what we're going to be getting, and now we're going to be getting it sometime soon. Wouldn't be shocked if it's on one of these Korakuen Hall shows. So really, really exciting stuff. Great build up, and with a great main event, my friend. This was a solid show.
It really was. I do just want to hasten to add that it isn't Nanami in the tag main event. It's a wrestler called Manami just for confusion's sake. So different person, former Sendai Girls tag champ and Sendai Girls junior champ as well. So yeah, different person, but your point is still valid, good sir. This opener, and thank God your dark prediction of Fukigen Death becoming the new high-speed champion didn't come to fruition. What do you think about the crowd reaction to Saya? Obviously, I've already spoken about what one idiot fan did, but did you think that she would get the reaction that she did coming out with the Queen's Quest flag, considering, you know, for all intents and purposes, Queen's Quest is sort of shelved, at least for now?
I thought the crowd was really well behind her, and I think they're going to continue to get behind her. And they were really behind her on the next show we're going to talk about, where the incident did happen. Because, you know, again, and I'll come back to the Korakuen show. I literally read that happened as I was getting that show to get ready to load. And I was like, boy, I wonder if the crowd is going to boo her. And they clearly didn't. She was crazy over in that opening match like she was here. So I like how they're positioning Saya Kamitani in these opening matches, because then you're seeing a great wrestler starting these shows off absolutely red hot. So I'm liking the reaction she's getting. This is pretty much exactly what Stardom, I think their booking is going, and I think she's going to continue to get more and more fanfare as we roll into the 5-star Grand Prix.
And also, why would she be in the main event? She's just lost one of the most important matches in Stardom's recent history, has effectively lost her unit, and is at arguably her lowest point, despite still being a champion in Stardom. It makes far more sense to have her at the bottom of the card, and even from a visual standpoint, have her, you know, work her way back up the card. So not only are we getting an explosive start to every card with Saya Kamitani in the first match, especially for these two weekend shows, but also we're having Saya Kamitani having to work her way up back towards that main event, which I think is really key. And I'm completely in agreement with you. I think there was perhaps a moment where I thought, let's see what the crowd's going to be like, because they're going to take this one of two ways. Either they are going to get behind Saya Kamitani as an uber babyface, which is what I think Stardom were trying to achieve, and thankfully what was achieved. But a little part of me was thinking, I really hope they don't go full heel on Saya Kamitani and assume that, you know, take it out on her that Queen's Quest is no longer a thing. Or, you know, I know it is technically a thing, but you know what I mean. But thankfully, obviously, Saya Kamitani still really, really over. Her match with Fukigen Death was a good indicator of her high-speed reign. You know, Fukigen Death did Fukigen Death things, but there was still enough there for you to think there is a chance. Because, of course, Queen Clown, whenever she gets that roll-up in, you're never quite sure. But overall, a decent enough title defense, and it was the one title that we actually don't have a new challenger for, so that's exciting moving forward. Do you think so? Obviously, we saw her team with Rian on the show after. Do we think, or when do we think, that Saya Kamitani is going to start looking at recruiting to the new Queen's Quest? Do we think that is going to happen fairly soon, or do you think that we're going to let that sort of Queen's Quest void on the card sort of fester for a little bit? Because I know that me personally, I would really let it lie for a while, build Saya Kamitani up before she then starts to try and bring Queen's Quest back.
Yeah, I think that's what they need to do. As much as I love Queen's Quest and would like to see them back as soon as possible, again, I mentioned it last week, how can I miss you if you won't go away?
Absolutely.
I think it would be a bigger reaction that if it happens at one of these big shows at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. You know, we mentioned at the beginning of the show how loaded those shows are. So, you know, that's a perfect spot for it, is that you can do it on one of those shows, you know, either at Sumo Hall or one of those joint shows with New Japan. I mean, there's really no wrong answer there. But I think, based on certain backstage comments Saya Kamitani has made, and just by how great they looked as a tag team on the show we'll cover here in a little bit, that I think Rian is going to be a member of Queen's Quest. I think that really seems to fit her mold, her and Saya Kamitani, considering the fact that she's only been wrestling a handful of months. Rian, how well she looked and how well she teamed with Saya Kamitani, I think that she'd be the perfect fit for Queen's Quest. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. You know, let it lie a little bit. Let Saya Kamitani focus on building herself back up, winning the 5-star, having a good run in the 5-star Grand Prix, I think that would be the most important, kind of building up the Saya Kamitani brand and then bringing back Queen's Quest, because we've seen what the landscape of Stardom has looked like the last 3 or 4 months. What's it going to look like? Who are they going to be bringing in? Maybe from AEW on an extended tour. Who are they going to be maybe bringing in or breaking up from some factions to go over to Queen's Quest? Maybe I mentioned it last week, maybe a Saori Anou, maybe a Hazuki, if they go that way. So that's a lot of real possibilities, but I don't want it to be something like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to do this, this, and this. So I don't want to see it just yet, Rob. Let's let it lie. However, I did mention quite a bit on Saya Kamitani last week. I kind of want to do something tongue in cheek, just to get a laugh, just to pop you. So they could have done some really lazy booking, and they could have Saya Kamitani say, Queen's Quest is done. I'm starting my own faction. I'm going to come out next week. I'm going to tell you what my faction's name is, and I have new members. She'll come out and say, the new faction name is Kamatani's Quest. And it's literally just the Queen's Quest flag with Kamatani over it. And said, my members of this faction are Lady C, Azumi, Hina, and Miyu Amasaki.
Yes.
Because the contract states they have to leave Queen's Quest, but they didn't say about going to Kamatani's Quest. So that was my little sidebar for joking. Obviously, I went into my big spiel on the breakdown and build up of Saya Kamitani, which I'm so excited for. And that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. And Saya was absolutely fantastic on these 2 shows. And she was great on the Catch the Wave. You made mention that she's wrestling Risa Sayre. It's basically a rematch from earlier in the tournament. I watched the Catch the Wave matches that they uploaded just about a week or so ago, and she was great. It was the day after. She wrestled Risa Sayre the day after the conversion, and she was terrific here. And she was great in this match with Fukin Death, and she was great in the match to the opener on the next day. So all signs are go for one Saya Kamitani, and I'm really excited to see how they book her and what they do with her, between here and the beginning of next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if Natsuko Tora is, legally allowed to change clauses in contracts without anyone else knowing, then I can't see why Saya Kamitani is not allowed to find really, really pernickety legal loopholes, but that's by the by. Aya Sakura then, and Rianne, obviously you said how good Rianne was in the tag match the following night. How do you think she fared here? And how nice is it for Aya Sakura to get her first singles victory? I found that an absolutely baffling statistic, because it feels like she's been wrestling for age, at least of this year, should I say, her first singles match of this year, first singles win of this year anyway.
I thought this was great. Just to kind of go just my star rating on the first match, the High Speed Championship match, I gave it 3 3/4 stars match. I thought it was a great way to start the show. And this was great. And I like doing 1 or 2 singles matches on these, what we call them, Stardom World shows, especially with the younger talent, because you're putting them out there without a net. We've seen Ronda Yugami having a lot of singles matches these past couple months. It's one thing if they put her in a 6-person tag and she's teaming with Shuri or Ami Sori or Konami, and they're going up against Tam, Natsupoi, Saori Anou. You know that they're going to put her in the right spots to make sure she looks as good as she can look. And think get the match over. But when you're out there by yourself, the focus is on you and your opponent. That's it. There's no other people in this match. And the fact they did it with Rianne and Aya Sakura, who again, if you take away the time she was injured, she's probably only been wrestling in 11, 12 months, right around there. And Aya Sakura and Saka Korora, we mention all the time, they're great as a tag team. I thought these two were really well together. Again, considering the fact that their combined experience in wrestling is 15, 16 months. You're in Korakuen Hall. You just had to follow a hot match, and I really think they did well for themselves. I really enjoyed this, and again, I like the fact that these younger Stardom wrestlers are getting proper singles matches on these Stardom World shows. I thought this was a great way to showcase these two. The fact it only went about 6.5 minutes, that was good. You didn't leave it out there too long. You basically were able to show everybody's strengths, hide everybody's weaknesses. 3.5 stars. I thought this was a really terrific match and a really good showing from these two young wrestlers.
Yeah, absolutely. The future is very, very bright with the crop of rookies that we have. Obviously, in terms of that rookie crop, it did suffer a little bit with Yuzuki departing. However, when you consider Aya Sakura, Rianne, who's coming on leaps and bounds, Sayaka Korora, who I'm full of praise for, same with Ronnie Yagami, and then you put Hanako into that as well, I feel like you have got a very, very solid crop of rookies there to build upon as we continue to go through. God's Eye versus Cosmic Angels then, Matt. Amisori getting the win. I think that's the right call. Really bringing you up ahead of the 5-star Grand Prix, as I think she will be a challenge. I don't think she'll make it through to the final, but I think she proved towards the end of last year's tournament that she can be a real spoiler. That big statement win over Saori, for example. I like the fact that she got the win. I like, as I mentioned before, this story with Saori Anou where she's lost the white belt and suddenly she's lost her aura, she's lost her confidence, and it's taking everything that Natsupoi has to drag her through matches. And I'm really enjoying where we're going with that. But what did you think about the match on its own in a bubble? Because I've got a feeling that you really like this, because this was one of my favourite matches on the card.
Yeah, this is my second favorite match from the show, and all these matches were really good. I'm sure you don't have to be a genius to figure out what my favorite match of this show this weekend was. But considering the fact that you have Tam, Yuna, Sayaka Kurora, Natsupoi, and Saori Anou on one team, who would have thought that Sayaka Kurora was the most violent member of Cosmic Angels in this match? Because her and Rana Yugami, like the bell's getting ready to ring in their circle. Like, yeah, this will be good. Obviously, they're both rookies, and you're putting them out there. You have a whole bunch of stars on both sides. This will be good. And as soon as the bell rings, they just start throwing forearms. And Sayaka Kurora has been really, really aggressive as of late, which I'm really liking to see, that, aggressive side, that violent nature side. And obviously, Rana Yugami, she's sitting under the learning tree, of a lack of a better term, of Shuri, which how are you not going to get better, especially learning that shoot style of pro wrestling, how to meld the MMA style into pro wrestling, learning under one of the best to ever do it, still very much in her prime, in Shuri. I thought it was really good stuff there. I thought Hina and Lady C, they both worked really well with the God's Eye team, specifically Lady C. And I think Lady C and Ami Sourei, that's the tag team to go to. I really think I'd like to see them get a push and maybe get one or two Goddesses Stardom championship matches, whether the champions, and we're playing hot potato with these belts, whether it's Crazy Star, whether it's Konami and Shuri, whether it's FWC. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I would love to see Ami Sourei and Lady C pick up some big wins over the next handful of months, if that's the way they're going to go. And, maybe see them maybe at a Korakuen Hall show or KBS Hall show, getting a Goddess of Stardom championship match. Obviously, again, you mentioned it with Saori Anou. I'm really enjoying this storyline where it's like, I literally lost my belt to someone that doesn't even go here. Like, I guess to quote Mean Girls, she doesn't even go here. She doesn't even work here. And
Yes.
She loses to Miko Wana. Yes, there it is. My nephew was in the Mean Girls play, so it's fresh. It was fresh on the mind. So, but obviously, Tam, Yuna, Yuna's great as always. I mean, Yuna really, really, really works her butt off in these matches. Tam and Natsupoi, really great Meltier stuff. I love seeing Tam and Natsupoi team together because their tag team symmetry really is second to none. But ultimately, it's Ami Sourei getting a really big rub, pinning the former Wonder of Stardom champion in the middle, clean in Korakuen Hall. I had this match at 4 stars. I thought it was great. I thought everybody shined. Saki Kashima did her gimmick. Again, you're in this match with all these hard hitters and all these high flyers and all these fancy wrestlers. And Saki Kashima, she comes in, she does her stick. She knows where to put her stuff in the match, and it gets over really well. Something different on the card in the match, and her spots, she doesn't do a lot, but she doesn't need to, because what she does means a lot to the match. So I'm really liking that dynamic with Saki Kashima in this group of absolute killers. So again, great match, only 9 minutes, 4 stars, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I gave it 3.5, thought it was absolutely great. I love the chemistry that we had during this match. I think we're both in agreement that of everyone that was forced to leave Queen's Quest, arguably Lady C is the easiest to place in a different unit, because I think that they were almost teasing her going to God's Eye before all this stuff with Queen's Quest anyway. And I think she, as you mentioned, with the Reiwa Tokyo Towers team with Ami Sourei, I think she fits that perfectly. I personally think Hina fits God's Eye as well. And I think having Hina in that faction, someone who's more martial arts based when you think of her judo background, and I feel like she incorporates it far more into her offense than either Rina or Hanan. I think she'd be very suited to that and sit under the learning tree, shall we say. I know it's trademark, but let's sit under the learning tree of Saori. And then, of course, obviously we have President Okada saying, I know you're sad that you lost Saori, but basically you've got to pick yourself up, because on the 4th, you are going to be going up against Mika Iwata and Manami in Korakuen Hall in the main event alongside Natsupoi. The return of Saori Poimat. I am extremely excited. However, for all of the aura that Saori Anou might have lost it apparently has been picked up by 4XL because Starlight Kid, Miyu Amasaki, Mei Seira, and Azumi walked out, and they're it, Matt. I don't want to see Miyu Amasaki or Azumi with any other unit. I want them in this faction because from the very first moment they walked out in Korakuen Hall, I was sold. Absolutely sold. And I mean, Starlight Kid has been on Twitter today holding up Pro Wrestling Weekly because they're on the cover and the faction hasn't even got a name. And Azumi and Miyu Amasaki aren't even proper members. And they're already on the front page of Pro Wrestling Weekly. So, this was aura in spades. And I feel like if Azumi and Miyu Amasaki do join this faction that already has Starlight Kid, Mei Seira, Suzu Suzuki, this really is a superstar faction, isn't it?
Yeah, you just made, again, they'll cover Weekly Pro Wrestling magazine. The picture was taken before even they took their robes out, before there was even a lockup. So that goes to show you there's something really, really cool there. And obviously we're waiting for Suzu Suzuki to come back from injury from what we understand is going. And we've seen her on shows, which is great. Basically, it looks like that Suzu is going to be coming back at the 5-star Grand Prix, which we can't wait, defending her crown, literally. You just made mention, partner, that this is the faction for you. You don't want to see Azumi, Miyu Amasaki, and any other faction. I agree with you 99%. However, I'm going to throw a name out there, and as soon as I say it, I think you're going to change your mind. So, Azumi and Miyu Amasaki, I think they belong into Are You Ready? I think they should go to DX. I think Azumi, Miyu, Waka, Triple H, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, X-Pac. I think that's the faction to go to. Obviously, that's, folks, for longtime listeners of the show, every now and again we'll throw out a DX reference with all the factions going on. But in all seriousness, yeah, absolutely. I know. Again, everybody last week, the sky is fall. What are they going to do with Azumi and Miyu? Oh my God, their careers are over. And then literally they go out, they take a picture, and this is all of a sudden everybody's favorite faction. Relax, folks. The people that are running these million-dollar companies probably know better than majority of us. So they know what they're doing, clearly. And then not only did they look badass, Rob, they gelled really well together in the ring. Shockingly, Azumi did something really well in a professional wrestling ring, right?
Imagine.
This is the faction. And again, I know it broke everybody's heart that Azumi, she has been with Queen's Quest since she was, I think, like 11 or 12.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm not making a joke, but I'm really not that far off. But considering the fact that she leaves Queen's Quest, she goes to this unnamed faction that it looks like that's where they're going. And from second one, it's like, yeah, she fits here. Which, again, goes to show the great booking on Stardom and just how great Azumi is. And Miyu Amasaki as well. These four work so well together. And the fact they're going up against the faction, the only 100% heel faction in all of Stardom, the faction that not only did Momo break Azumi's heart, but the faction that pretty much broke up Queen's Quest. And what's the first thing they do? They wind up getting a win. And who do they pin? They pin the person that has the weapon of the most over heel in the history of pro wrestling. That damn lunchbox. It was Starlight Kid with the Momo latch over Ruaka. This was a great match. Nonstop action. I thought Tekla looked great here. Momo and Tora, they really built them up in this match really well. Really protected them. And then we find out why later after the main event. Ruaka, all of her stuff here was great. Meant meaning. But just the way that Starlight Kid, Mei Seira, Azumi, and Miyu Amasaki, SL May, as you christened last week, or 4XL, whatever they're going to be called. And then again, the fact that we're more than likely going to be adding Suzu Suzuki into this mix. This is, to me, Robin, you would know better than me because you've been watching Stardom longer than me. To me, this seems like it'd be almost like the beginning of DDM. Like where you're having this new faction come in, and you just have all these badasses, and then you're adding more badasses to it. It looks like it's almost like a super faction. Like I'm getting DDM like vibes here. Like, do you feel that at all?
Well, just listen to who you've just said. Starlight Kid, Azumi, Mei Seira, Suzu Suzuki. Those are four of the strongest names in Stardom. And then you put Miyu Amasaki, who is one of the fastest rising stars in Stardom, on top of that. And you're just like, there's no weaknesses here. And that was what early DDM was like. You know, those first four, Himika, Julia, Saori, and Maika, it was like, there's no weaknesses here. You know, when you've got Maika taking the pinfalls, and yes, okay, she was a relative rookie at that time, but even so, it still felt like a big deal. And I feel like this faction could be the exact same. They could dominate. We could, you know, if I was to say to you that at some point in the next year, that faction is going to hold all of the gold. Crazy Star are going to hold the tag. Azumi's going to hold the white belt, and Starlight Kid's going to hold the red belt. I'd be more than happy with that, and I don't think anyone else would complain about it. I think that's a great idea. In terms of star power, I think they'd be untouched. And to have that much aura, having never teamed, having never stepped in the ropes as a faction or whatever, that takes a lot. It does take a lot, and I'm all here for it. The match was great, though it does make me laugh that Oeretai have just achieved this huge thing in breaking up Queen's Quest and then followed up with 2 spectacular losses, which really did make me laugh, but there we are. Yeah, I thought overall this match was great. I thought Tekla looked good. I thought Azumi, again, she's such a star. I cannot wait for her to get that big push that she needs. Miyu Amasaki, again, absolutely tremendous. Another one who has got superstar written all over her. Stars versus EXV then, Matt. A decent match. Probably got lost a little bit in terms of the shuffle of the rest of the matches on this card, but still a good match.
Yeah, really good stuff here. They basically just came out and kind of play the hits. You didn't have really. It's really weird because obviously Maika, there's no official leader of EXV, right? But Maika, she holds the red belt. So in my eyes and the fans' eyes and how it's being presented, not only is she the leader of the faction, she's the leader of Stardom, right? And it's just really weird. You don't have Mina there to kind of. It just really seemed. And don't get me wrong, this match was really good. I had it 3.5 stars. Really enjoyed it, but it really seems like Mina is kind of the glue that kind of holds everything together in EXV. And I didn't realize that until I watched this match. Zena continues to improve. I mean, her stuff with Saida was just terrific, and fingers crossed that when they announce Saida for the 5-star Grand Prix, I hope she's in that bracket with Zena, because I get to see the two of them chopping each other very much like Kobashi and Kensei Sasaki in the Tokyo Dome. Don't think they're going to go for the 58 chops or whatever, but regardless, I mean, these two just beat the crap out of each other, which I thought was great. Mayu's Mayu. She did a lot of really good stuff here. Momo Kogo seemed like to be the focus in this match for the Stars team, and Hanako as well, but eventually it's Hanan getting on that role, and then what an impressive visual this is in Korakuen Hall to hit that backdrop suplex on Hanako, who's one of the bigger rosters, one of the stronger members of the Stardom roster. Excuse me, what I'm trying to say, for the finish. And it's great to see Waka back. Great to see Waka, once again back into her ring. We know that she's been the past 2 years. She's had some few injuries, but I thought her stuff. They made sure that they had her and Hanako shine really well as a tag team here, because I think we're going to see them somewhere down the line, probably getting a shot at the New Blood titles with Hanan and Saida. And that's basically what some of this match was. It was almost like a mini tag match to see like if that's a match that we can put up on YouTube or somewhere on these Stardom World shows, how will it go? And I think be terrific. The Wingora team is great. Obviously Momo Kogo shined here, and I say this every week, it's so great seeing Momo Kogo back into a ring, and that's another wrestler that, fingers crossed, hopefully she gets her shot in the 5-star Grand Prix. Ultimately, again, 3.5 stars, but it kind of just did get lost in the shuffle of really what was a great undercard and what was a great final 2 matches. 3.5 stars for me, good sir.
And then we move on to the semi-main, which was the Future of Stardom Championship match. Rena obviously becoming the joint most winningest of Future of Stardom champions. Obviously, we saw Nanami, who we are sort of familiar with. We saw her defeat Aya Sakura in Diana. We saw her on New Blood shows as well, but she's improved a tremendous amount since, being that 15-year-old satellite member of God's Eye who took part in a handful of shows a couple of years ago. I thought she looked great here, and I thought that the match was a really, really good exhibition of Future of Stardom wrestling, was a really good promotion of the Future of Stardom Championship, and to see it at the semi-main event as well was really important, I think, for the title's prestige as well.
Yeah, again, we haven't seen too much of Nanami prior to this match. Again, a couple stuff on New Blood, a couple things here or there. And the fact that if you would have told me this match was going 15 minutes, it kind of would have scratched my head. I'm like, really? In Korakuen Hall on a match on a card that has what is going to be a stellar main event? Not only for someone we haven't seen that much in Nanami, but the fact that she's going up against Rina. And Rina's great. We've been seeing her praises the last 5 or 6 months on this show of how well she's improved, not only in the ring, but as her character, that bratty teenager. I think she fits in so well with her, what she's doing in a Oedo Tai. But can Rina, this young in her career and getting this young in life, carry a match in Cork? I make mention of this a lot when we podcast, whether it's on this podcast or the Marigold Standard, is that when the match goes to a 15-minute time limit draw, whether it's 10 minutes, 15, 20, what have you, very much into the MMA system, if I'm a judge, who do I vote wins? If I'm a judge, I'm saying this is a draw because this was a perfect 50-50 match. And then you realize the reason why they did this is because Nanami's coming back in less than a week's time to main event Korakuen Hall, again, against Saori Poi and teaming up with the Wonder of Stardom champion in Miko Iwata. So that was a really good booking decision, having this go 15 minutes and having going to a 50-50, because you might be thinking, well, Nanami, she deserves another title shot, right? Somewhere down the line, that's a possibility. But at the same time, Ronda Yagami comes out, she declares herself the next challenger, and nobody was upset. Everyone's like, hell yeah, I want to see this match. I know me and you, we sing Ronda Yagami's praises all the time. I know you were probably like me. Hell yeah, when is this match going to happen? Hopefully it's on one of these Korakuen Hall shows that seems Stardom is camping out at for the month of July. because again, where did you set this matchup at? You set it up at Korakuen Hall. Where should you deliver it? You should deliver it at Korakuen Hall. It's very simple, folks. I know we try to overanalyze things, but it's very simple. You have all these Korakuen Hall shows coming up. Why not do it there? I would be shocked if they don't do it anywhere else. Again, this is a really good match. The fact that these two were able to hold that crowd, and consider the fact that it's the co-main event. It's not early in the show. It's not late in the show. It's the match you're going to see before the match that, no disrespect to any other match on the card, probably drew majority of the house, right? The fact they had this good of a match, the fact that these two wrestlers are so young into their career and is able to go 15 minutes, I'm all for it. I love to see Nanami back more in Stardom. Obviously, I know we're getting her again tomorrow as we record this, which I'm all for. But the fact that Rina, who we sing her praises all the time, is able to go 15 minutes just raises not only the prestige up of Rina herself, but the future of Stardom Championship. Great stuff. I hope these two run it back. 3 3/4 stars for me, good sir.
And then, of course, we had the main event, which saw, again, FWC smash it out of the park. However, they weren't able to hold on to the Goddesses of Stardom belt, losing to the God's Eye team of Konami and Saori. Yes, it's sad to see FWC lose the belt. I would have loved to see them have a really, really extended run with the belts and really sort of bring the entire division up with them. We saw what they were able to do against Crazy Star, against Wingori, against O2 Line, against Konami and Saori before, obviously, the final definitive fall. I'd love to have seen them hold it. Just carry on holding it. Keep having banger matches against a Mayu Iwatani and a Hanan and Eye Contact, or against a Mina and Micah, or against, a Wedatai XL. Have it against Momo Watanabe and Natsukatora, who came out and challenged afterwards. I didn't want to see him drop it. And even though they have dropped it to who could be one of the most dominant teams ever, I really didn't want to see him drop it, Matt.
I have no problem with FWC dropping the belts. I have no problem the fact they dropped the belts to Konami and Shuri, two phenomenal wrestlers, and it's nice to see that Shuri is going to be getting more main events because now she holds the Goddess of Stardom championships, and we know Stardom they hold prestige in their tag division. Again, the best tag division of all of wrestling, bar none. Can anybody tell me any different? But this wasn't the right time for the title change. FWC is on an absolute tear. Really, again, this is the best Suzuki has ever looked, which is saying a lot because Suzuki is absolutely fantastic. This is the best that Koguma has ever been. And the fact these two together are they fit so well together. They're so great as a tag team. And they were on an absolute run. It seemed like they had so much more to do with the belts. And when the final bell rang, and I watched this live, I was like, I think it was like around 1 o'clock when it got done. And I was like, that match was really good, but I'm stunned on the finish. And one little thing I was a little disappointed, Rob, and maybe I'm wrong on this one, but you might agree with me. And again, maybe I'm getting a little greedy. there wasn't enough Hazuki versus Shuri violence in this match.
No, I agree.
It really seemed like the majority of the match was Hazuki and Konami, which was great. I'd love to see them have a singles match somewhere down the line. Again, maybe in the same bracket of the 5-star Grand Prix. And it also built, and I liked how, again, Shuri is the only member in this match that has won the World of Stardom Championship and has won the 5-star Grand Prix. So she is the big hitter, the heavy hitter. I like how Hazuki and Koguma, anytime they need to get up on Shuri, they use tag team work. Right? It makes sense. That's the tag team psychology. Who's the heavy hitter in this match? It's Shuri. When she gets on a roll, whether she was getting on a roll on Koguma or on Hazuki, the other one would come in to take Shuri out and break her down a peg. And I like that. That shows great tag team wrestling. So I really like that dynamic. You know, Koguma, she was great here. I love the FWC double dive. Every time I see that, I remember to when I injured my foot about a year ago, because that was the dive that me and Andy Header did, where I got hurt, where obviously Andy is the Hazuki and I'm the Koguma. But I think that's so, that's so timed, where Koguma's on the second rope diving the outside at the same time Hazuki does that absolutely insane rocket-like suicide dive. But I get flashbacks to that, but at the same time, it's two wrestlers. I love doing it, and they do it so much better than I ever could. Andy Header does have a phenomenal suicide dive, by the way. But I do want to make mention of this finish. I have not seen anybody come up with this theory. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. But not only did Konami hit Hazuki with a chair, she hit her with an Oedo Tai chair. Very much similar, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rob Goodwin. That's how she joined Oedo Tai when she hit Jungle Kiona over the head with a chair, thus dissolving Tokyo Cyber Squad. And then she chokes out, she has a German suplex on the floor, which Hazuki's just absolutely insane, taking those bumps, and then she gets choked out. So I liked how we kept Hazuki strong. She gets hit with a chair, takes a head dump on the floor, and then gets choked out. She doesn't tap out. She gets choked out, which I thought that was really cool, because Konami goes to the triangle answer, or we've been seeing her use like the ankle lock, right? But a rear naked choke, it's the easiest, it's literally jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling 101. It's the easiest submission to apply onto somebody. So I like that. But at the same time, I thought it was really weird how Konami, she could have grabbed any other, it's really weird for her to kind of take a shortcut, right? Especially in these Stardom main event matches where there's baby faces. So she takes a chair, and it's the Oedo Tai chair. Now, I know you can make reference for, you shouldn't be doing chair shots to the head. After what we've seen over the last 20 years with CTE, I do not like chair shots to the head. And I understand the Oedo Tai chair, it's padded. So that might be the reason behind it. That I have no problem with if it's a protected chair or a gimmick chair, for lack of a better term. But it was really weird how it was the Oedo Tai chair, and when she hit Konami with our Hazuki with it, she raised it over her head and paused for a second so everybody can see. And it got a little bit of a boo. And I don't know if they were booing Oedo Tai, which that's what they're doing. They're making Oedo Tai as the big heel faction, and everybody's booing them and paying money. People want to pay money to see Oedo Tai lose. Or they were booing because Konami used a shortcut, or a little bit of both. And I just thought that was really weird. They get the win, great match, and then their next challenger, Momo and Tora, to then flip the belts real quick over to Momo and Tora, and then do we see a Shuri versus Konami feud? Again, I haven't seen anybody come up with this theory. It's literally something I thought about as soon as the match was over. I don't know, my man. What do you think?
God, I hope not.
I'm agree with you. I'm hoping not either. However, I mean, Shuri versus Konami feud, that would be great. I'd rather have him run with the belts. And then again, Momo Watanabe and Natsuko Tora as your Goddess of Stardom champions wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Again, I would prefer Shuri and Konami, FWC Crazy Star, but to me, I just thought it was really weird. And I think a day or two afterwards, Tekla tweeted out the picture of Konami raising up the Oedo Tai chair before she hit Hazuki over the head with it. And I think she said something like, I think she just put the googly eyes emoji. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be shocked if that's somewhere where they go.
I mean, potentially. Does Konami need to go back to Oedo Tai? No. Are God's Eye in desperate need of upper mid-carders? Yes. We've seen Konami in Oedo Tai, and, it worked. I don't have an issue with that. But I don't feel like it's ground we need to retread. It could be a tease, and if it is, well picked up, because I did not notice that at all. I just saw chair and went, That's a bit odd. I don't know if it's going to lead. It could lead to a feud between Saori and Konami, and just the fact that Konami won in such a dishonorable way. I mean, they embraced afterwards and everything. So whether Saori actually knows at this point that Konami has destroyed Hazuki's head with a chair, I don't know. But we could be going somewhere that way. I don't know. It's a weird one. I certainly don't want a Konami and a Uedatai, and that's no disrespect to a Uedatai. It's just that we've seen it. Konami is, she's just come back full time. She left as such a baby face after that informal or, sort of unofficial Hana Kimura tribute match with Julia, that it would be a shame to just turn a heel, especially if it follows the heel turns of Momo Watanabe, who, has turned heel and has done very little since she's turned heel. So I would be very reticent to do that. But again, what do I know? What I do know is that this match was fantastic. I am completely of the same opinion as you, 4.25 stars, but I would have loved to have seen FWC on top for longer. I have never supported a time limit draw as much as I wanted a time limit draw in this match. I was like, please don't have someone win this match. Just go to a time limit draw. Go to a time limit draw and then run it back in a couple of months. On a pay-per-view, people will love it, but nevertheless, still a great match. I'm sure Konami and Saori will have great matches. And you know what? Whenever Uedatai XL have teamed up, the matches have always been really good. So I'm excited for that. I'm a bit surprised that Tora has gone for the tag belts, simply because, obviously, following the conversion, it was her that came out and challenged for the red belt against Maika. So I know that obviously Maika is defending against Tomoka Inaba in a couple of weeks, but I assume that she would have more focus on the red belt. So if you're going to have a Uedatai, why not have it Momo Watanabe and Tekla? I don't know. That was just something that crossed my mind when I saw both of them come out. Nevertheless, I'm sure it's going to be a great match. Will they flip-flop the titles? I'd be surprised, but then again, I didn't think God's Eye would take the titles either. I just want to point out that we haven't had a title run past 150 days since ALK in 2022.
Wow.
I mean, the title reigns so far since ALK in 2022 have dropped the belts. Fukuoka Double Crazy 76 days, Black Desire 40, Fukuoka Double Crazy 108, Melty 130, 7 Up 115, The New Era 64, Rose Gold 49, Restart 99, Aphrodite 119, Crazy Star 36, Fukuoka Double Crazy 55. So they've already been flip-flopping the titles, and what I was hoping that we were going to get with FWC was that sort of consistency that I thought we might get with Aphrodite, or we were sort of getting with Aphrodite. I mean, we had Crazy Star, who had been chasing the titles for so long, and they dropped it in less than 40 days in one of the shortest reigns, if not the shortest reign, I think, with the titles ever. It was the shortest reign ever. So I'd like to see some more strong tag teams holding it for 150, 200 days. Just as a difference. The Artist of Stardom belts, we seem to have had quite a few 200-day runs. Mahimi Poi 237, Uedatai 215. The Bari Bombers held it for 221 days. Donna Del Mondo held it for 280. Cosmic Angels 291. So there's been quite a few 200 and longer style reigns there. We had 3 200s back to back with the Artist belt. So let's do that for the Goddess. Let's build on the fact that we have got one of the strongest tag divisions in wrestling. Let's really, really start. And, you throw Meltier in there, you throw Saori Poi in there, you throw the Reiwa Tokyo Towers in there. I know people are going to scoff at that because of Lady C, but Lady C has really, really, really improved. And I think her and Amisori,
she's really good. Absolutely,
as proved by that New Blood tag challenge that they had against Wingori, are really, really good together and offer something completely different. Anyway, let's move on to the
real quick, buddy. Real quick, I just thought of something. I might pop you with this. You just said Tora. She's obviously challenging for the red belt, and she's challenging for the Goddess belts. What Marvel villain did I compare Tora to last week?
Thanos?
That's right. And what did Thanos do? He collected all the Infinity Stones. That's what
Yes.
Natsuko did. That's what Natsuko did. Real quick though, one last thing I want to make mention about this match is Konami did the Arisa Hoshinki 1399 kick
She did.
off the top rope. And any time that we can make mention to anything Arisa Hoshinki on this podcast or just life in general, I think makes everybody a happy camper. But that's all. I just wanted to put on those two things there, my friend.
The idea of Natsuko coming out in her samurai getup with this comically large gauntlet on, with all of the Stardom belts in each of the knuckles, I'd love it. That would be incredible. Can you imagine how heavy that would be to carry? Be incredible.
With the headdress, too, it takes her 10 minutes to get everything off. And then she's exhausted by the time the match starts.
I mean, you look at some of those venues as well, and there is just enough clearance as she comes out from the curtain. Just the idea of one day she's going to come in, it's just going to knock it clean off and lose all of the aura. Anyway, let's move on to the show from the 30th. This was in Shinjuku. This was also a live stream, 346 people inside Shinjuku Sumitomo Hall. This is the first time that Stardom have run the venue since New Blood 5 and 6. It outdrew New Blood 5, but didn't outdraw New Blood 6. I believe that was the way around. One of them drew 304, one of them drew 400. I can't remember which way round it went, but a decent enough sized attendance for Stardom nevertheless. Your results then are as follows. The EXV team of Hanako and Maika defeated Rian and Saya Kamitani, and the Stars team of Momokogo and Saya Ida. Maika pinning Rian in 12:27 with a discus lariat. Singles match followed next. Zena defeats Aya Sakura with the Thunderstruck in 8 minutes and 27 seconds. In a three-way match, Waka Tsukiyama defeated Lady C and Sayaka Kurora. She finally wins a match with this move. I've never seen her win a match with this move, but I now finally know what it's called. It's called the Gokuraku Don, and she won in 6 minutes and 26 seconds, pinning Sayaka Kurora. Tag team match, the God's Eye team of Amisori and Saki Kashima defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi and Yuna Mizumori. Saki Kashima getting the pinfall over Poi with the Kishikasai in 8 minutes and 10 seconds. The 8-woman tag match semi-main event, the God's Eye team of Konami, Rani Yagami, and Shiori teamed with Hina once again. They defeated the Uedatai team of Tora, Rina, Ruaka, and Tekla. Shiori pinning Tekla in 15 minutes and 3 seconds with the Roy-In. And then in the 8-woman tag match, the 4XL team of Azumi Meisera, Miyu Amasaki, and Starlight Kid defeated the Stars team of Hanan, Hazuki, Koguma, and Mayu Iwatani in 14 minutes and 8 seconds. Meisera pinning Hanan with the Shooting Star with this match, not only being easily the best match on this card, but also rekindles that feud that I thought we'd forgotten about between Hanan and Meisera, Matt.
Yeah, I think it was Hazuki of all people had to pull Hanan off Meisera, and I think even Hazuki was like, calm down. And I think that Hanan was like, you're Hazuki, don't tell me to calm down. That's the way that I saw it. But no, I didn't see this show until I think a day or two after it aired, where it was all over the social medias that these two had a wild brawl after what was a phenomenal match, what we'll get into in a moment. But I really like this pairing with these two, and then we're seeing more of a violent side of Hanan and Meisera. Meisera is kind of known as, she comes out, she's got the fun music, and she's all bubbly, and she gives the piece of tape to one of the members of the audience. And Hannah, she kind of has her, wish me happy, go sunshine music, and they're great wrestlers. But the fact that we're seeing a mean streak with these two, and they bring the worst out of each other in the best way, I really like that. And maybe, Rob Goodwin, maybe it might have something to do with the fact that Hanan was an understudy of Mariah May, and we know that Mariah May and Meisera, they had that on the tour bus feud in Stardom last year before Mariah May came over to One Stardom, even to the point, Rob, where you and me literally had a front row ticket to Mariah May cutting the autograph line, which you should not be cutting the autograph line, folks. Cutting the autograph line at WrestleCon to meet one Mina Shirakawa, and then had a little spat off with one Meisera. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that Hanan's getting a little revenge for one Mariah May. I don't know. That's the way that I'm going with it. But I really like, in all seriousness, I really like the mean streak that Meisera and Hanan have against each other. And again, I would love to see this. We don't know when this is going to boil over. Again, you can put this on one of these Korakuen shows because you have quite a bit going on, a lot of Korakuen shows coming up over the next few weeks. But I really like to see them have that proper one-on-one singles match. It really looked like we were building towards it in the Cinderella tournament, but we just never got there. We didn't get there. So it's, again, you mentioned it seems like something that they cool off, but they bring it back when it seems to make sense. And a really good way to end the show is with that big pull apart. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. These two don't like each other. When are we going to see this? And they just basically gave you that little tidbit of we can always go back to this and then eventually have the one-on-one match. But I don't know what was in the water here, folks, but like everybody like brought their A+ game. I'm like, holy jeez, this was a great show from start to finish. I think I even text you after the first two matches. I'm like, this three-way dance to start off the show had no right to be as good as it was. And then Zena and Aya Sakura go out and have a banger to start this show. And then obviously the main event was almost as good as the Konami and Sherry versus FWC match. I mean, I had them, I think, both at 4.25 stars. But that main event was, oh, geez, it was really take your breath away. Like, nobody took a second off in that main event, partner.
No, agreed. Fantastic match. And again, not only did it illustrate just how good this faction is, this superstar faction of 4XL or whatever you want to call them, but again, just earmarked stars as the most hardworking faction in Stardom. Like, I feel like it goes somewhat under the radar as a faction because we're focused so much on FWC, Wingori. You forget that when they're all together and, you know, it's the A-team of Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, Hanan, and then whether you put in Koguma or whether you put in Sayurida, they are untouchable at the moment. Even Scotty Wrestling's Workhorse Angels, I feel like at the moment, stars are them. Stars are the hard workers. Stars are those dependents that you have on every single card. And every single card they deliver. And this is another fantastic example. Hardly surprising when you realise who is in there, but even so. And if we're getting a Mei Seira Hanan singles match, I'm all for it. And do you know what, Matt? It's already cost a lot because, I don't know if you noticed, but it cost Mei Seira her tooth.
Oh, when did that happen? I didn't see that.
I think it was after this match. They, her and Starlight Kid posted a picture, and I was like, "That's weird. Mei Seira looks different." And they then said Mei Seira lost her tooth, and it's one of her upper ones. I think it's an incisor, like one of the side ones. Yeah, and I don't know whether it got knocked out during the match or whether it got knocked out in the brawl with Hanan afterwards, or even if it happened on Saturday. I don't know because I didn't notice. But yeah, she is missing a tooth.
I think she kayfabe and said it happened with the brawl in Hanan just to make it that more, build it more up. May as well use it, right?
We might as well just blame Konami. We're already turning a heel, aren't we? So, do you know what? Konami knocked my tooth out. She did it with the Oeda Tai lunchbox.
Putting it all out there.
Speaking of Oeda Tai, not exactly the ideal follow-up for Oeda Tai, having just disbanded Queen's Quest, Matt, is it? 2 losses back-to-back. And for all of the idol killer stuff that Tekla has been spouting, and I am a huge fan of Tekla, huge fan of this gimmick, and I like the fact that she's doing something different. Has she killed any idols? Like, really? I mean,
no.
She hasn't really done a lot, and I don't know, I feel like Oeda Tai definitely should have won at least one of these matches because you just disbanded Queen's Quest. They are hated. And we just sort of gave them 2 random losses for no reason. And not only did you had Rina and Iwaka in this match, who, no disrespect, are lower down the Oeda Tai tone pole than Tekla is. I mean, yes, I know it's Sayuri, and there's no shame in taking a pinfall to Sayuri, but it seemed like an odd choice. This one, certainly more than losing to the brand new supergroup, Matt.
Yeah, I got no problem with them losing to the supergroup because, again, the week before you built Oeda Tai up as this evil faction, and then it's like, you know, we have this potential new supergroup coming in, and what's a better way to get them over and make everybody happy? Nobody likes Oeda Tai. We can't stand them. Look what they did to our beloved Queen's Quest. And Tekla was so mean to Saya Kamitani on the microphone, and she is, damn you, Tekla, great heel. And then to have the new supposed supergroup, you know, beat them the week later, that's, you know, your feel good story here. if you're going to put God's Eye over here, don't you think it should have been Ronda Ugami pinning Rina to build up towards your future Stardom Championship match? I thought that would have been the way to go. Again, it's Sherry. She's one of the best wrestlers, not just in Stardom, but in the world. Sherry's fantastic. No problem with Sherry getting the win here, considering the fact that her and Konami just won the tag belts the night before. So I get that, but at the same time, if you really want to put God's Eye over, I think it should have been Rana getting the win over Rina. But if you're asking me, it should have been Tekla pinning Hina and then kind of getting in her face afterwards, basically saying like, hey, like now go away. Or you could have done something. We've seen that the new booking committee's got no problem with anybody up main eventers losing matches. If you're building something up, you could have Tora pin Konami. And then it was even Tora hit Konami over the head with a steel chair. A taste of your own medicine. Thus, because we know that Tora and Momo XL are the next tag challengers. There's a couple different ways you could have gone with it. But I just think this was weird to have Sherry beating Tekla, especially Tekla had this big heel turn, and we were kind of building Tekla up again as this idol killer, and they're feuding with God's Eye, which I don't think there's any too many idols in God's Eye. Could be wrong there. However, that being said, this match was great. You know, Tekla and Sherry, terrific pairing in the ring. Sherry and Konami, obviously they gel really well together as a tag team. Is the reason why they are the Goddess of Stardom champions. The crux of this match was Rana and Rina, which we know that is going to be the next future Stardom championship match. It was a little bit of a preview. I thought they absolutely delivered. I had at 3.5 stars. Really great match. I mean, look who's in the ring. You have 8 fantastic wrestlers. You know you're going to get really good quality stuff. But yeah, I agree. It was just really weird that it was Tekla eating the pinfall here. However, though, if you go back and look at the match, that last maybe 30, 45 seconds, it's a lot of Sherry and Konami double teaming to defeat Tekla. So you're using the tag champs, you're getting them over with their tag moves. So you can also say, well, yeah, the only reason why Tekla got pinned here is because the tag champs had to kind of ambush her at the end. I guess that's one way of saving face. But yeah, there's a couple different ways you could have gone about it. I wouldn't have booked it this way, but at the same time, the people that run Stardom are much smarter than me.
Yeah, agreed. Not that the people are smarter than you, Matt, but I agree with your summary. What else do you think is worth discussion then on this card, Matt, of the 4 matches we haven't discussed yet?
Oh my goodness, that main event was something to be seen. Holy jeez, was this great. And again, considering I don't want to go back on something, especially something negative, considering the fact that Saya Kamitani got ambushed by that idiot fan right before, and that's why I was like, I wonder if this is going to affect her performance, because that could get in your head. And the fact she went out there and was like main event Saya Kamitani in the opening match, not only her, but you have Micah, she's the champ. She was phenomenal here. Like Micah was the power slams, the superplex, the clotheslines, everything that she did, the chops she took from Saya Ida, everything she gave to Momo Kogo. She gave Rihanna a 2.5 count. Like, you have somebody that's literally been wrestling a handful of months, and you almost get a clean win over the dominant World of Stardom champion, the Wrestler of the Year candidate World of Stardom champion Micah. I thought that just goes to show you the unselfishness that is Micah. And Saya Kamitani and Rihanna, I mentioned it a little bit ago, they worked really well together as a tag team. So once Saya Kamitani does decide to build back up Queen's Quest, I think Rihanna is the perfect candidate to go into Saya Kamitani's version of Queen's Quest. And just think, if she does it in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, how much better Rihanna is going to be. So I think that's the way to go. Again, not yet. Let it build, let it simmer a little, and then build it back up. Momo Kogo, she was great here. Hanako was terrific here. Saya Kamitani, again, she's doing planches to the floor. Really, really excellent stuff. And then you just have the finish with Micah hitting Rihanna with a huge running lariat, and then the 360 lariat for the pinfall. I had this at 4 stars. I thought this was absolutely terrific. If you haven't seen the show, and we always say if you're pressed for time, obviously the main event is must watch. But the crowd was and kudos to the crowd, because they've been invested in these last few shows. We made mention, the past 6 or 7 months, how the crowds for majority of these shows, they just seem like they're just so quiet. Like, what's going on? These last few shows, especially this one, the crowd, they were into everything. They were so hot for this match. It was nonstop action. The fact they were able to tell so many stories in less than 13 minutes. I love this match, especially a way for an opener. And again, it really seems like starting these last few shows, they're purposely starting off these shows really hot to get the crowd going. Maybe that's what they needed. Maybe they're kind of just looking like, okay, we're doing okay on the attendance. They're kind of into the main events, but how can we get them invested into the whole show? Well, let's take a step back And think about it logically. Let's put on a really hot match to start the show, and maybe they'll stay hot for the rest of the show. And if that's the formula they're going with, partner, it really seems that that's what seems to be working for me, or for Stardom. But again, I absolutely love this. What about you, partner? What'd you think of this one?
I thought it was great. Again, I'm completely with you on the fact that it's something that Stardom have been searching for, because ordinarily we're so used to seeing, the rookies taking on someone in a throwaway singles match, in a match which they get destroyed in 4 or 5 minutes, or a three-way, or something that doesn't necessarily have any stakes. And yes, you could argue this match doesn't have any stakes. However, you've got Saya Kamitani and you've got Micah, the red belt champion, all in this match. And you've got Hanako, who is incredibly impressive at the moment, Rian, who seems to be on a mission to prove herself, and then you've got Momokogo and Saya Iida, who work really well together. And this match is the encapsulation of what I want opening matches to be on these Stardom World shows. Exciting, fun, 12-minute sprints. Doesn't even have to be 12 minutes. Make it 10, that's fine. But when you've got talent like Saya Kamitani and like Micah in these matches, it really, really, really does help. Plus, you had a little bit of a tease here, Matt, of Micah offering that hand to Saya Kamitani of joining EXV. Now, obviously, I know you're all in on Kamitani's quest, but would you like to see Saya Kamitani in EXV?
No, she's got to be the leader of Queen's Quest and build that back up. She's going to team with them. I mean, I believe they set up for Korakuen Hall. I think they're doing the Golden Generation tag. It's Kamatani, Iida, and Micah, which you'll run down the card. So I think that's one way they're going there, and I think they're kind of just teasing Micah and Saya to be in the ring, just to see the reaction that it may get if they're standing across from each other on the main event of a big show for that World of Stardom Championship. Again, if Micah, retains throughout the rest of this year and going into next year, because they have a lot to set up for the end of the year and beginning of next year. Again, we talked about at the beginning of the show. No, I don't want to see Saya go anywhere. I mean, I will cheer regardless. If she's like, I'm going to Cosmic A, I'm a Saya Kamitani fan. She has my full support. I think she's the best babyface, the best sympathetic babyface in all of wrestling, and I'm so invested into Kamatani's quest, not the joking faction I made, but her quest to build herself back up and then properly win the 5-star Grand Prix, or get that red belt run, whether it's going to start at Dream Kingdom, whether it's going to start at the Tokyo Dome, whether it's going to start at the anniversary show, whether it's going to be All-Star Grand Kingdom April of next year. There's really a lot they can do with Saya Kamitani, and I'm really looking forward to her slow build back up, because we mention all the time that Wonder of Stardom Championship reign, that 480-day reign that she had with the white belt. It was just not only the best Wonder of Stardom reign, in my opinion, that they've had in the history of that belt, but one of the best championship reigns I've seen in the last 10-15 years in all of wrestling. And that's saying a lot. And I think if you're going to put that work ethic and that Saya Kamitani, and now we're having Saya building herself back up, I think she kind of needs to just be the leader of Queen's Quest and build that back up in her own image when the time is right. But I don't think you're going to see her joining EXV. I think you're going to be seeing her team with Micah, because we've been seeing these kind of different wrestlers going in and out of factions to do these one-night-only Dream Team matchups, and it keeps things fresh and keeps things interesting. So, yeah, and not only that, but I think you'll see them be teaming up quite a bit, only for them to eventually Saya Kamitani saying, okay, I earned my shot to get your shot at that red belt. And I think it's the perfect and easy story to tell for both Micah and the Golden Phoenix.
What else then, Matt, on this card? Before we discuss the upcoming Korakuen card, what else do you want to talk about on this card?
Just real quick, again, the crowd was really hot after that match, and then we went to Zena and Aya Sakura. Again, Aya getting another singles match. Zena is somebody that we have now pegged a main eventer in Stardom. By no means was it like must watch, easy for me to say, but I thought that Zena really gave Aya a lot, and Aya really put on, in my opinion, her best performance. I thought that was really terrific, a really good 1-2 combination. But again, folks, if you're only going to watch one match from this show, that main event of the Stars team of FWC Honden and Mayu taking on SL May or 4XL, whatever you want to talk about, that was absolutely terrific. Must watch, almost as good as the main event from Korakuen Hall. I had it at 4.25 stars. Really good stuff from just all the wrestlers, and it was really cool seeing all the different double teams and triple teams and quadruple teams we have from the new faction, 4XL, again, as we'll call them for now. So, and again, it's, you mentioned put over Star. I mean, do we really need to put over Han and Mayu and FWC more than we already do? We will. They're fantastic. Again, must see match, my friend. But unless there's anything else that you want to add, buddy, I'm ready to run down these 42 Korakuen Hall shows we have this weekend.
Now, currently, it's funny you should say that. Currently, we only actually have one Korakuen Hall show in terms of the card itself announced. Presumably, what they are going to do is they are going to wait on the results of the show tomorrow as we record on the 4th, and then they will announce the card for the 7th. However, I will reread the card from the 4th in full. So, here it is. Tam Nakano will be taking on Rian. The EXV team of Waka Tsukiyama and Hanako will be taking on Rina and Azusa Inabe in what I imagine is going to be a New Blood Tag Team #1 contendership match. The Stars team of Hanan, Hazuki, and Momokogo will be taking on Yuna Mizumori, Aya Sakura, and Sayaka Kurora. Azumi is tagging up with the Mei Seira against Mina Shirakawa and Zena. We've then got an 8-woman tag match. Sorry, a 10-woman tag match. I can't count. Yeah, it is time. Saori Konami, Saki Kashima, Rani Yagami, and Hina versus Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, Tekla, Ruaka, and Fukiken Death. Mayu Iwatani and Koguma versus Starlight Kid and Miyu Amasaki. Earmark that one for match of the show potential. We've then got Maika, Saya Kamitani, and Saya Ida versus Tomoka Inaba, Amisori, and Lady C. And then in your main event, Mika Iwata and Manami, not Nanami, Manami versus Saori Anou and Natsupoi. So, Matt, obviously, the Sendai Girls team versus Saori Poi is going to be blow away. I imagine that's going to be really, really, really good. But those two under tag matches, the semi-main, Maika, Saya Kamitani and Saya Ida versus Tomoka Inaba, Amisori and Lady C, ahead of that Maika versus Tomoka Inaba match, is going to be really good. And again, Mayu Iwatani and Koguma versus Starlight Kid and Miyu Amasaki. We've already spent a lot of time talking about how good Miyu Amasaki is at the moment, and Koguma has proved herself to be so much more than just a comedy act. I mean, she's just gone through, 3 match of the year contenders in terms of tag team matches with Hazuki, so that's going to be fantastic as well. And of course, she had tag team matches with Mayu back in 2021 when they were taking on ALK, and that was fantastic as well. So there's some really, really, really good potential on here. No title matches though. And are you a little bit disappointed with that?
Yeah, I see some championship matches, but we just had 3 on the last one. We had pretty much every championship match, champion belt on the line on the last show. I mean, I guess you could have thrown maybe an artist match on here, but then again, you're building up that story with Mike and Saya Kamitani. But the main reason why I'm saying no is because the matches you just announced. But another match I want to put a focus on, Zena, again, in my opinion, the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling, teaming up with her EXV member, Mina Shirakawa, who's pretty much a household name over here in the States, to take on Azumi and Mei Seira, the 2 fastest wrestlers in all of, maybe not just Stardom, but all of wrestling. So that's another match that you can earmark. There's like 4 or 5 terrific matches on here. And the fact that if the brass of Stardom, we're going to be like, Matt, we're not putting any championship matches on this Korakuen Hall show. I'm like, we're going to give you the Inaba sisters back. I'm like, you know what? That can heal my bleeding heart. Yeah, I got no problem with that. I got no problem with that. And the fact that we're seeing them more and more. Again, there are 2 wrestlers we may see in the 5-star Grand Prix. I mean, geez, the way that we just fantasy book the 5-star Grand Prix is the blocks are going to be 40 people. But and there's going to be 11 matches. There's going to be Forbidden Door. There's going to be 15 matches on each show. But hey, as long as the quality's good, I'm a-okay. No, like, I see your point. We had 3 championship matches on the show we just reviewed. We don't have any here, but we have a lot of potential. Like, where are we going with the future of Stardom? And there's going to be a lot of footprints left after this match and breadcrumbs on the trail that we're going to after the show in Korakuen Hall. And again, live stream, and it's at 6 a.m. for my time. It's not 4 a.m., 3 a.m., which I have no problem getting up for. But the fact that I can probably get up at a decent time, but who am I kidding? My cat's going to probably wake me up at 4:30 in the morning because he's insane. But I'm going to be watching this baby live. I'm super excited for it. Again, a really stacked card with a lot of multi-person matches, and where we come off this Korakuen Hall show going into, the rest of July with those 2 back-to-back pay-per-views at the end of the month, and then we're going to be rolling right into the 5-star Grand Prix. Man, I'm excited to be not only a Stardom fan, but a wrestling fan, my friend. We are really, really blessed and lucky to have such great wrestling going on in the Stardom ring.
Absolutely. And Matt, before we sign off, of course, how could I forget? It's time for EO and Kairi Watch.
EO and Kairi Watch, my friend. There wasn't much there, and we shouted him out at the beginning of the show. I'm going to shout him out again. Our good friend Darren Chat in the past few weeks, he's been literally messaging me on like Tuesday morning, letting me know where to go into the 3 hours of Raw, where to fast forward through.
What a guy.
3 hours of
What a guy.
And not that I don't enjoy WWE, I just don't have 3 hours on a Tuesday to devote to watching all the Monday Night Raw. Now, my buddy who I chopped in Philadelphia, Chad, as you met Chad.
I did meet Chad.
I think he brought you Rumple. I think you guys did. I think he brought you a bottle of Rumple Mints. He's a big WWE fan, so he'll always tell me, like, I know this is what you're going to want to watch. Don't delete it off your DVR until you watch this, this, and this. But regardless, we're here to talk about EO and Kairi Watch. And thanks again, Darren, for literally getting me through 3 hours of Raw in about 15 minutes. So we have a Money in the Bank qualifier match. This is the third one for Damage Control. 2 weeks ago, EO qualified for Money in the Bank. Last week, Kairi failed in her attempt to qualify for Money in the Bank, which did not sit well with one Io Shirai. This one, we have Ivy Nile versus Dakota Kai versus Zoe Stark. As the match is getting towards the end, Kairi, because it is Kairi EO Watch, comes out to try to help one Dakota Kai win. However, her help backfires, and it's Zoe Stark hitting the Z360 on Dakota Kai, and Zoe Stark will then qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. Of course, folks, I wanted Dakota Kai to win here, but Zoe Stark is absolutely fantastic, and we've seen her in ladder matches in NXT. Her style is going to mesh perfectly with all the other competitors in the Money in the Bank ladder match, which is this Saturday, by the way. And then we have a backstage promo where basically Dakota Kai says the plan always was for EO to win the briefcase once again at Money in the Bank, and Dakota and Kairi are going to make sure that EO wins the Money in the Bank 2 years in a row. However, Lila Valkyria comes in and she says, well, Dakota, you and Kairi can't climb the ladder for her. The Damage Control members get up into Lila Valkyria's face, and then Albert Fire and Elsa Dawn, the tag champs, they come out to help Lila Valkyria, and we have a 6-way brawl happening here. So that's really all that happened on EO and Kairi Watch, my friend. But real quick, on Stardom World, they did put that Arisa Nakajima 12-person tag match that had Sherry on it. I was just wondering if you got a chance to see it.
Matt, I don't have time to see my own girlfriend at the moment, so no, I didn't.
I just want to let you know, there's 2 different clips. If you didn't watch it, or I know you don't have time, but if anybody does have time, go and watch it, because Sherry's phenomenal. Everybody was great in the match, but then on the tag match, the actual tag match, there is some brutal exchanges with Arisa Nakajima and Sherry. And I watched this one the same day I watched the tag title match, and I mentioned how I was a little disappointed we didn't get Hazuki versus Sherry violence. That Sherry versus Arisa Nakajima violence more than made up for the hole in my heart for the lack of Sherry violence, or lack of Sherry versus Hazuki violence. Because, oh my goodness, Rob, if we get an Arisa Nakajima versus Sherry match somewhere in Stardom or anywhere in the world before Arisa Nakajima retires, I cannot wait. But yeah, their exchanges were as violent as you think they would be. There was some really, really violent throwdowns with those two. So I just want to make mention of that. Again, not much on the EO and Kairi Watch, but we do have EO in the Money in the Bank ladder match this Saturday, which I'll be watching over at my parents' house for their 4th of July cookout and having a beer with my dad. So that's always nice that I could hang out with my dad, have a beer, a burger, and watch some pro wrestling. So all in all, good weekend set up for me, sir.
Absolutely. I hope you have a lovely time, and of course, wishing a happy July 4th to all of our American listeners. And that just about brings us to the end of our show today. Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate all of your support. Just a reminder that we will be live Saturday, the 13th of July on YouTube and on Twitter and Facebook. Keep an eye on our socials for a little bit of information closer to the day. say I hope you can come and join us for our review of Summer Destiny 2024. If you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, it'd be great if you could just go to the podcast app of your choice. We are literally everywhere. If you fancy giving us a 5-star review, that would really help us out, and a comment would as well. We can't stress how much that really does help us out and be exposed to even more people so we can fill their ears full of Joshi goodness. You can also check out thestardomcast.com for all of the latest news regarding Marigold and Stardom, as well as archived episodes of our podcast and all the Stardom and Marigold statistics as well. You can check out the patreon.com/the Stardom Cast, where you can get all of these episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. And then, of course, you can find us on the social media at the Stardom Cast. You can talk to me on Twitter as well at @RealRobGoodwin. Thank you again for listening, guys. And Matt Turner, sounds off good, sir.
I think I can do that. Folks, questions, comments, suggestions, anything that you need from me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best and the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you want to shoot me an email, perfectly fine as well. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via the email system. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for another great episode. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We greatly appreciate your support because, like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all together and everybody's different. Everyone's special.